So I have been looking into consumption, and each one of you, I will explain how, but brings a totally different insight into consumption. I want people who want to build a brand today, young guys, 0 to 1, to learn everything from all of your experiences. So I have been looking into consumption. We created a fund to invest into companies around consumption. There seems to be a double standard in a way, wherein the reported numbers on the top are looking good, but everyone I talk to on the ground is talking about how consumption seems to have dropped in the last 2 or 3 months. This could be in travel, this could be in fashion, this could be e-commerce. Across segments, very unlike a year leading up to an election, consumption seems to be dropping. As an investor, and also talking to people who want to build a brand from 0 to 1 or to scale a brand in consumption, which I broadly believe is the larger India opportunity. We have too few independent Indian brands in consumption which have scaled. So I thought this would be opportune. The timing is great. And each one of you, I will explain how, but brings a totally different insight into consumption. Don't be fooled by Raj. I think people have seen one facet of Raj, but the other more interesting facet, I think we'll all get to learn today, as I have in my time with Raj. Since you're here for the first time, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself? How did Ananth begin? Where did he begin? How did you arrive at Mensa or creating Mensa? Give us like a few minutes.
I just want to make sure it's not boring.
Yeah.
Actually, by chance and a little bit a random path. I did 15 years in consulting.
Before that, start from the very beginning. Born
in Chennai, grew up in Chennai,
Parents?
did engineering. Parents, my father was a professional, worked in the auto industry. He worked at a company, Hindustan Motors, which actually I think makes or used to make among the more iconic cars. So the Ambassador and the Contessa. So he sort of did that. So I grew up in Chennai, but I spent a bit of time in Calcutta, a bit of time in Indore, all of that. Did engineering, which seemed like the logical thing at that time. You know, you did engineering or were a doctor. The startup world actually hadn't really,
What
made
year
it into.
is this?
This was 94, is when I graduated. So 98 is when I graduated from college. And then I went and did engineering again. And I always thought I wanted to be an auto guy. My dream job actually at that point was to design engines at Cummins. Instead, I joined McKinsey, which is a consulting firm. They paid slightly more. I had a loan. So
How much did McKinsey pay back in the day?
McKinsey at that time for an analyst would pay $50,000.
Wow. And this was in the US, I'm guessing.
It's in the US. So I joined in the US.
And they were hiring engineers?
They were hiring engineers. So I was among the first automotive manufacturing analyst type engineers that they hired. At that time, McKinsey was getting into auto and operations. So since I didn't do automotive in real life, I thought I'll do it through consulting. I always thought I'd do it for 2 years. I ended up staying for 15. So lived in China for about 3-4 years, US 6-7, and then came back and spent about 4-5 years.
China when?
2002 to 2005. So anyway, to cut the long story short, did McKinsey for a long time. I came back to India because my wife wanted to come back to her family-run business, diagnostic labs. So we came back to Chennai and started the McKinsey office there. Did that, got elected senior partner and then left. Did Myntra, which is my fashion experience, which is quite unusual.
How did you go from that to being CEO of Myntra?
A bit random again, Nikhil. I think I met Sachin, Bini and Mukesh.
What did you think of them personally?
What did I think of them personally? I think each of them brought very, very different things to the table. Mukesh was all about people and culture. Sachin was all about vision, big picture. Bini was the ops guy, execution, ops, etc. So I thought they were a very interesting group of people. They had just bought Myntra when I met them. This happened because one
The
of
good
my...
and the bad. They're friends of mine. They won't feel bad. You can say...
They're friends of mine as well.
What is the bad part? You said three really...
No, I think the bad part is, by the way, I think they could have figured out more complementarity amongst each other.
They didn't get along?
Oh, I think at that time they all got along. Now, I think as things evolve and companies evolve, I think they all evolved into very different people.
Who was right and who was wrong amongst the three of them?
I don't think one was right or one was wrong. I think, by the way, it is still the most successful exit that I think India has produced. So I think they did something right, much more right than wrong. Since you're their friend, maybe you know a little bit more. But essentially, so it happened by chance. So I do a lot of stuff based on instinct in people and some macros. So it may not be quite like investing, but for me, people matter. So you make the bet on the person. And I thought they always put the company first, and I bet on them. I think e-commerce was a 10-year trend, so bet on that.
What year was this?
This was 2015. So 14 and 15 is when I started with Myntra. And actually, by the way, fashion in e-commerce was a very logical choice. It's the only one with high gross margins. At that time, beauty, etc. came much later. So decided we'll try it. What's the worst that can happen? Turned out to be great. Really enjoyed the experience. So that was my first, at that time, by the way, just to give you perspective, I didn't know the difference between a knit and a woven. I was in automotive, a knit garment and a woven garment, or a denim. I could tell a difference between a casting and a forging, but that wasn't particularly helpful. So did that for 4 years, really enjoyed it. Thought there was something interesting about building. Flipkart sold to Walmart, thought I would be more entrepreneurial.
How big was Myntra during your time?
It sort of went from, call it 200, 250 million to a little over $1.5 billion.
Of sales?
Of sales. GMV would have been higher, right? So it went, and the private brand business of Myntra at the same time also went from 7-8% to call it almost 30%, which is what drove profitability. So we were among the most profitable pieces of the Flipkart ecosystem, not amongst. We were the most profitable piece of the Flipkart ecosystem. So I think it was quite valuable. So did that. Then thought I would do something more entrepreneurial. So I invested some money into a company called MedLife, which is an e-pharmacy business. Why e-pharmacy? I think, by the way, here I should have done more homework. Gross margins were lower, so I should have picked that up. But it seemed interesting. It was MedLife was a company which is completely privately funded. So Prashant was the founder as part of the Alchem family, and Tushar basically put all of their personal money in. There were no external investors. It was a small business at that time, 40, 50 crores a month, relative to the Myntra scale, right? So got in as the CEO. I also put in money. I bought 10% of the business. There were no external investors, so it was relatively easy to put in money. Put some money in, went through a humbling experience trying to raise money. I'd done a bunch of raising money through the Flipkart ecosystem when everything seemed easy. You sort of go out independently and try and raise money. I think it's quite tough. We were not able to raise money at MedLife. We went through multiple iterations. I think at that time, if you remember, WeWork happened, right? And then everything went into a freeze. And then right after that, COVID happened. So, you got into this, but we got quite lucky. COVID, which destroyed many other businesses, actually created a huge tailwind for e-pharmacy, right? Because everybody started shopping online. The government changed regulations and looked at it more favorably. Consolidation started to happen. NetMeds got bought at that time by Reliance, just before this. And then we were the independent one. 1mg got bought by Tata's. So we got bought by PharmEasy. Turned out to be a very good deal at that point of time.
Not
share
cash,
swap.
right? Yeah.
But essentially, they provided lots of liquidity because after that, they continued to raise and raise and raise, right? So after the PharmEasy sort of buy, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I could have gone and been an investor or joined a venture capital firm. You just did a podcast recently, but I felt like I was an operator. Just very interesting thing, I think, is in India, we're mostly still an unbranded market. I think in almost all spaces.
Especially in fashion?
Especially in fashion. Also true in beauty, also true in home decor, which are the three spaces that we're in. So large unbranded market. Second is, I think the friction of building brands is becoming less. Call it for 140, 150 rupees, maybe the rate has changed slightly, but 140, 150 rupees, you can get to 23,000 pin codes or 26,000.
You mean as a delivery fee?
As a delivery fee. if you think about Unilever, you think about Marico.
Is that time dependent? If you want to deliver in 1 day versus 1 week, does the price change?
Not really. So I think there's break points. I think there's a within 2 to 2.5 day delivery, and then there is a 2.5 to 5-6 day delivery. And
is that also based on weight?
It is based on weight. So most of actually volume value ratios are among the most efficient in fashion and in beauty, right? It's very bad when you do large appliances because you ship large amounts of air. So, but now for at least fashion, that category where it's not very heavy and not very volumetric, for 140 rupees you can get to, or beauty, you can get to most parts of India. So you don't need a very large distribution network to reach customers, at least in the initial stages. Second, I think brand building now, influence of brand building happens a lot actually online. E-commerce and fashion is maybe 10-11% roughly. Overall e-commerce is slightly lower, given grocery will bring it down. But I would say what is influenced online will be 50%, right? So brand building can happen very differently. So that was the second thesis. The third is it's very easy to start in India, very hard to scale in India. I think the scaling is boring. It's about efficiency. We made jokes about time and efficiency. I think efficiency is really what drives a lot of scale. You have to do performance marketing well. You have to do sourcing well. You have to design well. These are all like boring things after you get the product market fit right to continue to scale. And I felt that
if you were to say 100 rupees spent on fashion in India, how much is spent where? Online versus offline?
Online will be 10-11 rupees, right? The rest will be offline.
How much is organized? How much is unorganized?
I would say still, Kishore may also have a point of view on this. I would say, by the way, 60% is still disorganized, right? I think ready to stitch is still a very large segment. Most of ethnic, which is a very large portion of fashion, is still unorganized. You go to your nearby tailor, you go to your nearby store. It's not really a brand, right?
Is that close to being disrupted?
I think there is, I think it's a 5-year journey. I don't think it's like it happens overnight, right? I think the first big push has happened already. So to give you a sense, Nikhil, I think Myntra used to be, when Myntra started, right? Myntra used to be 2-3% fashion penetration online. It's now 11%. Obviously, by the way, growth of Myntra, growth of AGO, growth of XYZ.
And this is between 2015 to now?
2015 to now. When the market itself is growing, and this is all branded, right? So I think there's a real opportunity in my mind. I think it'll continue cyclically for the next 5-10 years. This penetration will go up. I think if I remember the numbers correctly, and these little outdated, but China is in the mid-20s in terms of penetration in fashion. The US is 17-18.
By penetration, you're talking about online
sales.
Penetration
too, as a measure.
And how quickly is this market growing?
The overall market is growing a little bit over GDP. Branded is growing 2-3x faster because unbranded to branded is happening. And online, by the way, will grow faster. We can talk about the current situation. But if you take a 3-4 year view, it's growing reasonably fast.
And can you also explain what Mensa is and the scale today?
Yeah. So I don't want to get into a lot of scale and so on, but I think it's essentially a house of brands. We have about 20 brands. We have brands in fashion, beauty, and home. Why those 3 categories? One is because I knew something about it. Second is it's high gross margin category. Also, it's a large TAM.
What are the margins typically?
50-60% gross margin, right? In beauty, of course, it's higher, but in fashion, at least 55-60. In beauty, 70-80, right? Depending on what area of beauty that you get to. Perfumes is high, etc., right? So we are trying to build a house of brands. It's a very simple thesis. We get buildings which are half finished, but with a good basement and a good foundation, and we build them out into hopefully skyscrapers, right? The number of 1,000 crore brands in the country is very, very, very few, right? We spoke about this a little while ago. I think the goal for me, is over the next 5-7 years, could you build 5,000-6,000 crore brands, right? In each of these spaces. And I think it's possible. I think you can build them very differently. You can build them more efficiently. Lots of lessons learned from the previous experiences. So trying to see if you can do it more efficiently and effectively this time.
And Mensa is doing about 200 million now, sales?
Yes.
And raised about 200 million?
Yes.
And not burning much money anymore?
No, we're not burning at the EBITDA level money, but I think, there's still working capital investment and so on.
Because a lot of people watching this are not just entrepreneurs trying to start a business, but also investors.
Right.
What is a good multiple to pay while you're investing in a fashion, A, and in a beauty, B, brand?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, from an EV to EBITDA multiple, I think, a lot of the FMCG brands trade at 40, 50 EV to EBITDA. And I think fashion,
Can
by
you
the way,
explain
trades...
what EV to EBITDA is?
Sorry. Enterprise value to the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation,
How do you
amortization.
arrive at enterprise value?
Enterprise value is the overall value of the business, right? Which is, what is the value of the equity of the business?
What if I were to ask you for a simpler multiple? In terms of sales,
So
what
I think
else?
a revenue multiple is what I think you're looking for.
Are you considering sales as revenue?
I'm thinking
it's
about...
the same.
It's the same in this case, right? No, I'm not. There is no GMV when you're running a brand, right? So when you're running a brand, I think it's accounting revenue, right? I mean, whatever gets recorded as accounting revenue.
Are you also a platform where you sell all the brands? No, you're not.
No, we're not. So we do have D2C sites for each of our brands, but we are not a platform. I don't want to compete with my end customers, whether it's a Myntra or an Amazon or a Flipkart, right? I think there, by the way, the cost of traffic is very high, and you've spent a lot of money building it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
sales to
so sales to multiple, I think varies, Nikhil. My sense is, I think a 5x would be
On
interesting.
fashion?
5x on fashion would be interesting.
Beauty?
Beauty, I think between 4 and 6. No, actually maybe 6, 7. I think food will be probably lower. Will be 3,
by
4.
food, you mean like QSR, fine
QSR,
dining?
yeah. We don't do it. I mean,
Ration?
in Mensa, we don't do it. But if you actually did like a fresh food with a cloud kitchen type thing, I think the multiples would be low. Yeah.
Is backward integration a big part of Mensa?
Yes.
Yeah.
We would like to. We're starting to do a little bit of it. I mean, we have one peanut butter brand which has a captive manufacturing, because there, I mean, literally, the taste is everything.
It's a small machine, yeah.
Yeah, it's a small machine as well. So, so we do that. We would like to backward integrate. We would like to sort of have more control over supply chain. But roughly, Nikhil, going back a little bit to what do we do, just to simplify a little bit, right? I think we want to build global consumer brands out of India. I think we want to use technology to do it slightly differently and more capital efficiently. I think that's it. That's a little bit of what we're trying to do.
If I had to phrase it in my own language, can I say you pick a bunch of medium-sized brands?
Yes.
And hope by putting them together, adding backward integration and tech, together they'll be more valuable than they are on their own?
Not really. I think, by the way, the synergy part of it is for sure true. But I think the reality is you do a lot of work in brand building and growing them and so on, right? So it's not just the synergy across a portfolio. It is, so we have 20 brands. There are 10 brands that are what we call breakout brands, which are growing much, much faster than the market, profitable, blah, blah, blah. So you really invest in brand building in them. So the way I think about it is Unilever and P&G built brands a certain way because there was a certain set of constraints. I think we can build brands very differently because the constraints are very different. And so over the next 10-year period, can you build out a fairly large consumer brand business out of India? But I, by the way, think there's a global opportunity because I think the arbitrage at some level, both in distribution and in sourcing, is also very high, right? So you can actually build it out for the world. And I think that's the exciting opportunity.
So by the end of today, 2 objectives. One, if somebody is starting a brand, I think a lot of people in India right now want to start a restaurant, food brand, fashion brand, makeup brand, perfume brand, mixer brand. There's so many different things that people are trying to do.
Right.
I think we need to get them from 0 to 1. And walk through all the intricacies of that. We need to figure out where the black holes are, where something needs to be built. And if you're building it, how do you build it?
But is there a way I can ask you some questions?
Of course.
In the course? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm looking
What do you want to ask?
We'll let it
so
flow.
We both went for breakfast the day before yesterday. And he was being so cagey about so many personal details of his life. So Ananth is a very colorful character, okay? He collects wine. He has 6,000 bottles of wine.
3,000, but we're not
3,000? 3,000 bottles of wine stored in a vault in Chicago. And he's obsessed with wine. I know Kishore is also into wine, so you both can connect.
Not at all. I'm not at all into wine, but anyway.
You're not?
No.
Okay. I know Raj is not into any
He doesn't drink.
Yeah, but we'll come back to the personal side of your story later. Raj needs no introduction. Raj is more popular than many people I know. But The one thing people don't know about Raj is his insight into consumption is really different. He has spent a large part of his life building a detergent brand.
Yep.
And if I were to tell you a personal story, he started a new company called House of X. And when he was starting that company, we both were talking about, how we can work together on it. And the very, very impressive thing about Raj is we were trying to beat him down on the valuation and the price and trying to get 20%, 30% into this company because evidently we believed in Raj and all that he can accomplish. But in 24 hours or 48 hours, he went to another venture capital fund, Lightspeed,
Yep.
and he raised more money at 3 times the valuation. And the duration between beginning and end of that conversation was less than 48 hours.
Fabulous.
And I found that incredibly impressive. And maybe you start there. What convinced whoever at Lightspeed to hear your pitch and fire that quickly? Is it just that Indian VCs don't do diligence, or is it something else?
I genuinely don't know about this, honestly. I think
What worked?
I think 2 or 3 things which I would like to say, which I believe that it worked. One of them was before I started pitching to you or anyone or like your friends, larger group, I got it tested by Ananth, I got it tested by you, I got it tested by Varun and Ghazal. I went down and I actually got my pitch crafted by at least 12 or 13 stellar founders in the India who I know.
I think that's such an incredible
It's
insight.
a great
right?
insight. Yeah,
So-
Anyone pitching,
So I actually reached out to all of them, flat down, sat with them, tried to understand, and asked everybody to just not give me feedback. Actually asked them to play devil's advocate. I was like, just beat me down. Why do you think this? I am coming here and I know this will work. Tell me why this will not work. And because they gave me a lot of loops, probably that helped me. That was first. Second, I think why a lot of funds were interested in doing so. First, there was a growing interest in this space where can you build media-led brands, content-led brands, creator or influencer industry-led brands.
Yeah.
There was an interesting space because this was really popping in China, Korea, and US. There were a bunch of companies who were doing, and especially when you different ways. China has live commerce and stuff. Korea is more into beauty, but different ways, and people were coming up with it.
sorry, when you said China is 20% online, how much of that is streaming?
I don't have the number off the top of my head.
But a large portion
But
of
I
that?
think now there's a fairly large chunk which is streaming.
50%?
Live streaming is big.
It's big. 15-20% of that will be live streaming. Now, I think.
15, 20 or 50?
No, I don't think it's 50. I don't think it's 50. At least we should check the facts, but my sense is it'll be 15-20%.
It can't be so much.
It will not be so much.
What do you think about live streaming works? Why do people shop so much on live streaming?
So I'll tell you, I think.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So I'll complete the loop and then we'll come to live streaming. So I think there was a growing interest in it. And the third reason why people sort of maybe believed in what we were doing is because of my past experience and the team which were helping me doing it. So my past experience was I started doing business when I was 16 with my father, and he was a small detergent manufacturer who used to completely discard branding. He used to not believe in detergent.
Interesting.
He was like, I want to build a great product, and if I've built a great product, it'll work. So there was no marketing, no sales team, no distribution, no branding. He's like, this will work. I'll give it to one guy, and then it'll automatically. And he was doing it for 30 years. Right. And he was able to do I think when I joined, he was doing around 40 lakhs a year in revenue. So that was a business scale I joined.
Yep.
And then when I joined it and I took over, we divided the company into 2 parts. That one was market development, one was product development. We learned that through PNG. So I took over the market side, built distribution, went on villages to villages, built a distribution and built a stellar distribution of 200 distributors and scaled that brand. Within 18 months, we were 10x of what we were doing. Then another 18 months, we were 10x of what we were doing. So just scaled. And we went on from a small factory to now 4-5.
So what worked?
That was
in branding and marketing the detergent.
2 things which were really, really different, which I believe we were doing. We went to villages where people thought nobody will buy premium. So what we essentially started doing, our detergent was 75 rupees a kg, which was at that time Tide was doing. Okay. And usually in villages, there was ghadi and wheel, which were doing absolutely bang on, which is 50 rupees and below 50 rupees. So we went to these villages. We told them, every time you're wearing expensive clothes, this is an expensive detergent for your expensive clothes. So that clicked on in smallest, in the remotest of villages where there were 10,000 population, 20,000 population. So I went on really deep. So from there on, the demand started beginning. The second insight, I want to really thank sir. It came from Big Bazaar. My schooling was done there. And what I saw in Big Bazaar, that was my biggest homeworks I used to do.
Okay.
After my college, after my work, I used to stand in Big Bazaar for like hours and for months.
How old were you?
I was 17.
Yeah, very weird kid.
Yeah.
How many kids stand in Big Bazaar at 17?
I don't think it's a weird kid. It's just, I think I was so insecure that I wanted to like get rich or make money so quickly.
Why?
That I was fine. I think I come from family where I was always an inferior kid. Like to everybody. My cousins
Siblings?
were toppers.
Oh, academically.
Then everywhere. Like I was not able to speak in English properly till I reached 12th. So social group were like making fun of me.
Tell us a bit about that. Where did you grow up?
Indore. So I was in Indore and school called National Public School.
What Marwadi family?
Sindhi family.
Sindhi family.
Sindhi family.
How can you not be good at business?
It's like in your...
So I saw that's
माँ के पेट से सीखा है.
no, that was a learning. I saw my father growing. So I actually saw my father growing from in number, if you want to put it in lifestyle cycle, like from 1 BHK to a bungalow. Like I saw his first car, which was a third-hand Santro, it happened in front of me. His first Activa happened in front of me. So I think that helped me a lot. And because I was in a school where everybody, typical like a Indore tier 2 city where 2 or 3 of your friends are like politicians.
Right.
Like this happens. Like 2 or 3 friends are like someone's son or someone's chacha or kaka owns like a BMW. So you're always like jealous of them. So because I was like kind of inferior to people who had money, more power than me, not able to speak in English, not like academically good. So I was like, I want to prove myself. I want to go out. And that's why like I used to just find out opportunities where I can do it. And the obvious choice was because my father is into it, let me help him scale because बाकी तो कुछ पता नहीं था. In fact, उससे पहले I applied in like 60, 70 companies, FMCG companies for internship. Nobody replied. So nothing worked. So I stood in Big Bazaar. I saw something very weird, which I thought was very insightful at that time. This is 2013, 14, I guess. 14 probably. Yeah. So everybody was moving. This is Indore showroom, Treasure Island. Everybody was moving from solids to liquids. And that was very, very killer for me.
As detergent.
No. Everything. So from bathing soaps, you were going to shower gels. Hand soaps to hand wash gels. Dishwash bars to dishwash gels.
What year was this?
2013, 14 types.
Just started,
right? Yeah. And all the ads on television, so Lifebuoy, Dettol, they were big.
Yeah.
They were doing only hand washes. They stopped advertising. So I was like, because they are advertising liquids.
Yeah.
In Big Bazaar, the biggest display is of these products. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And people were buying. And this was significantly at a higher price. And people were spending less time while choosing their liquids than soaps. So I was like, लोग कम time लगाते हैं, लोग ज़्यादा पैसे दे रहे हैं और ad भी ज़्यादा हो रही है. Killer category. Okay. So saw that. And then at that time in Big Bazaar and in all Kirana stores and everywhere, there used to be more at that time as well.
How does one spot these trends for somebody trying to build 0 to 1?
So
maybe I'll like to go on this, but anyway.
So I saw that, and at उस time पे my framework was why dishwash gel I chose, and that became one of our biggest products.
After you.
Dishwash gel because there was hand wash में बहुत सारे options थे. Big Bazaar का भी एक brand था, Sach, SACH, I guess, right? बहुत सारे products थे. Shower gels में बहुत थे. Dishwash gel में सिर्फ 2 ही थे. There were only 2, Women Prill. So because there were 2 products, I thought there's an opportunity because there are 2 products I can do, and they both were very distinctively colored, green and yellow. So I was like 2 different products, yellow may be opportunity, green may be opportunity. Let's try to do something.
And did you figure this out by sitting in a supermarket?
Yeah. In front of Kirana stores. I saw that in Kirana as well.
Will
so I
that
did an
work even
experiment.
today?
I'll tell you something.
I'll tell you why it works is with every transition, there is something every marketer's dream is to increase the per kilo or per liter price of everything. From soap to what do you call liquid is an increase of price and upgrading of customers. And something comes about, like modern retail came about, and they were able to sell a new category and a new product. And Big Bazaar always worked on category creation. So any new categories, I think we were the player that time to create a new category and move up the ladder for the consumers. So it's a simple story of a biscuit, Parle G. Parle G is 100 rupees a kilo. And you can now go up to cookies, which is 400 rupees a kilo, and go up to chocolates, which start from 1,000 rupees a kilo. So it's always upgradation. I think after liquid, the tablets have come in now.
Correct.
Why is it dependent on how much the shipping cost is?
No. It's all about upgrading in life. Everything does the same job. So a biscuit, a 100 rupees glucose biscuit, it's the vanity and the ego which you create through
I think it's
marketing
the
and brand
brand,
building.
right?
Yeah.
Also, I
And even
believe that if you can find out a way to make people lazy, you can do a great job. Like you will be able to sell more.
If you cut down the time taken
If they
to a
cut down the
certain
time.
task.
So powder, think of it. You open powder, you have to like put up a scoop or hath se uthao, fir dalo. You don't know how much you're putting. You don't know. You don't know how to carry it.
I think all the brand marketers do something called the neuro-linguistic programming. They condition your brain to look at things in a different way and accept what they are saying. So it was like the classical advertising of Coke. Earlier, it was always shown on a beach and it quenches your thirst. They will show a hot summer. And whenever you're drinking Coke, you used to feel that it's quenching your thirst.
No, but I was going to say, I think if you start now, I think you can be much more. I think there's a lot more data available than there was earlier, right? So I have, by the way, a few brands where the product development happens primarily through thinking through search. So I have a brand called Botanic Health, right? Or,
Thinking through search.
Yeah. So what happens
Search
is
on what? Google?
search on Google, search on Amazon, search on Flipkart, search on whatever else. So
How do you get that data?
it's an API that you can integrate with. So Amazon allows you to integrate and allows you to get the data. It's completely legitimate. You don't get competitor data. You
How
get
much does it
search
cost?
data.
Can somebody building a brand afford that?
Yes, it's very inexpensive, Nikhil. So if you're starting now, sorry, I'm forgetting the name. There is third-party software which costs like in the hundreds of rupees a month type thing, right?
And it will
Maybe
tell you what
thousands.
people are searching for on all these.
It gets you what people are searching for, and that's a very good way to sort of figure out where are the null sets. So what people look for is where are people searching and not finding anything, and that's what you start launching, right? So we've launched a bunch of interesting products, right? Including vitamin C serums, etc., which are not new, but they're searching for a different format of a vitamin C. So they're searching for vitamin C 50 ml. And you find that there is not that many that are there in the 50 ml. So I think the amount of data that's available and free and easy for anybody watching this podcast is quite stunning. And therefore, you can be much, much better in my view. I don't think it takes away anything from going and seeing, right?
Right.
But you can also use this to make a better decision.
This is not part of the podcast.
I'm
You
like,
guys can try it.
I've heard so many different stories about this podcast. I don't know which part is real and which part is like.
You can ask.
It's good. Guys, I didn't realize this. Do you know the number of transacting customers online in India?
How many?
Huh?
How many? 10 crores?
100 million.
Yeah.
Nikhil, I was just thinking, you designed it this way. He's very offline first, he's digital first, I'm social first.
Yeah.
So that was the thought process
Yeah.
behind it.
Because this is the combination of this is today's brand building, right?
I'm actually very curious to learn about this. Social and commerce
Yeah, I know.
and hype.
Yeah, so where were we? Why did people invest in me?
Yeah.
Okay, because of this background where I was doing this, two things worked really well. One was we went on village and village, where like smallest cities where people thought that nobody will buy premium. And we were massive believers that if you can sell, like if you can teach them the value of it, they'll buy. Obviously the volumes are going to be less, but maybe there's worth a shot because you don't stand a chance in front of Unilever or P&G in the place where they anyway dominate. Okay, that was first. And second was a marketing or a branding, how do I say, framework that I still use is we say like, I believe in if I have, let's say 200 rupees, I would only pick up one person instead of trying to promote it to 200 people. उस टाइम पे ये मानते थे सब लोग that people used to believe that if ज़्यादा दिखता है तो ज़्यादा बिकता है. Right? This was the basic belief in distribution. Like if you're available, you can sell. So how do I get my brand seen more. So the first thing was, do I have enough money to get seen? Do I have enough marketing brain to get seen? Do I have
Yep.
enough? So none of us that. I was like, okay, let's compare me versus Vim, because Vim was our biggest competitor in dishwash gels. So Vim has more money than me to advertise in India. Yes. Vim has more money than me to advertise in my state. Yes. Vim has more money to advertise in me in my city. Yes. But does he have more money to market to these 10 houses in my colony? Probably not. Because if I have only 10,000 rupees and if I'm only promoting in one colony, I'll be seen in that entire colony versus an
Yep.
MNC brand.
Is that an important insight? If you're starting afresh,
Yeah.
micro geography?
So in distribution, in like physical distribution, this worked well because my whole colony started believing that, oh, ye brand kuch naya chalta hoga. Because in the beginning in distribution, people. So here's what I believe, like, there's a journey which a customer goes through. Conversation, convincing, and conversion. Okay. So first is a customer ask himself or herself. They converse with themselves that, hey, ये कहीं देखा है, maybe अच्छा दिखता है, बहुत जगह दिख रहा है. Is it happening everywhere? So that's a conversation going on. There's something.
Right.
Then second is convincing. So convincing is you talk to your friends, you see someone else buying it, or maybe in distribution-led India where the physical distribution happens, the shopkeeper is a key influencer to convince you. He's like, Bhabhi ji, ye le jao. And if the shopkeeper said it, Bhabhi ji will take it. You will take it. Bhaiya will take it. Right?
How do you
That's the
convince the shopkeeper?
margins, and I'll come to that.
It's all incentive driven though. I think, but your point, if you start something new, my sense is I think being a shark in a pond is always better than doing something else. I don't know whether that's distribution or a niche, right? If you want to launch an ethnic, I wouldn't go against the big guys. I mean,
So you're saying when you're beginning,
when you're beginning,
be big fish,
focused, right?
small pond, not
Yeah.
small fish in
Yeah.
the sea.
Yeah,
So that's
I
the same
think
thing
so.
which we
I
did.
mean, my read, right?
Do you agree, Kishore?
No, I would, obviously that is correct, but I will come into the market by another route. So that's what they have done in a way. So you will find a niche and enter into the market
Yeah.
by a different way. That's it.
So that's the second thing which worked for us, because we used no parking boards, digital boards, posters just in one area. So it looked like
No
in
parking boards?
So in tier 2, tier 3 cities, there's a no parking board, which people put on their bungalows.
You advertise.
To advertise, you put a no parking, and then up and down you put
on
like
the
that.
up and down of that you have
You have your advertising. So we used all of that, right? Then what we started doing is we stood on a transporting place where we because we wanted to expand out of our city, Indore. So we said these transport guys, आपका जो rickshaw है, whatever your rickshaw, the loading गाड़ी is, I'm gonna repair it. Okay, I'll repair it for you. From the aesthetics of it. So the aesthetics and repairment would take us like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks. But then in exchange, I would paint your whole rickshaw into Jadugar. So I got like thousands of these rickshaws who would roam around the entire state. And then there was a number and people started calling me, right? So this is what we did. We went really, really narrow.
So you're saying
specific
people
areas.
who do not consider real estate, I'm considering auto rickshaw real estate.
No.
If they don't consider it an asset today, you can convince them to brand your product and make it an asset.
So that's what happened. And then, so I did that. Then I left all of it. So I left. 3 months I was still in home. I started creating content at home.
In Indore?
In Indore. And in 3 months, I scaled from, I had like 50,000 followers already. I scaled from 50 to 300K because I learned patterns of around top 100 brands in the world, what they were doing right. Learned that pattern, started creating content, reached 300K, got my first brand deal, came to Bombay.
Is there also a learning there for family businesses?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, set expectations, right? Or probably the second way would be if I was convincing enough, probably, or I would have stayed enough, then things would have gotten sorted. So yeah, cutting this story. So I left, came to Bombay, started hustling again. And there was time where the first money which I got from brand deal, I put it in like advance rent of 3 months. And I had like a good house, but I didn't have furniture. So I was sleeping on floor for a month because I was like, brand deal ugly aayegi to paise aayenge.
Explain brand deal. New guy has 300,000 followers on social media.
Yeah.
Moves to Bombay. How much does a brand deal pay?
Okay, so I'll tell you brand names and who paid me. The first brand deal was ever 70,000 rupees from Upgrad. That was upfront. They paid me. They were like, put up a story, tell our courses are there in digital marketing and content. Do it. They paid 70,000 rupees. That 70,000 gave me money to come to Bombay. Then while in 10 days, I was living in a hotel. During those 10 days, I got a deal from KEI Wires, Pink Insurance and Amazon sellers. How I got this? I started DMing them on Instagram and asked them that, hey, I can do this. Started telling them concepts of what I can do with them. Together, these 3 brands paid me around 9 lakhs.
Wow.
That 9 lakh became my 6-month runway in Bombay.
And they paid you 9 for how many sort of like for a long period of engagement? Or like?
So 2 post each. And then rights, I sold my rights to one of these brands, I don't remember which one, for 6 months to advertise on my face. So that I learned, and then it was all cold DMing. Once I did that, and then once you start popping up, automatically you start doing it. One quick lesson if you want to put it out, everybody, whoever's creating content, reach out to B2B brands more than D2C brands. And I'll tell you why, right? Because
you mean platforms when you say B2B?
B2B is like, let's say Amazon or Adobe or Google or Meta, WhatsApp, right? They pay you way
They
lot.
have money. D2C brands have no money.
Is that how it works? You reach out to brands, not wait for them to come to you?
Now they come to us, and still there's a like mix of inbound and outbound. In the beginning, I used to do the outbound. And why B2B brands work better? Because there's no one literally promoting them. So if you can align your content with what Adobe wants to promote, like how would you promote Adobe? Right? So if you can align your content with that, there's a higher chance that you'll get paid versus a D2C brand. D2C thinks of performance. D2C thinks like, मैंने 1 लाख दिया, कितने लाख रुपए का मेरे को sale आया. Adobe can't do that with you.
So the influencer medium might be influencing a lot in sales, but we'll never truly know because it might not translate into direct.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. I think that's a problem even now. I think for everybody who uses influencers, right? Attributability.
But it's still better than what advertising we used to do.
That is no doubt at all. No
So yeah,
doubt.
that's the content I did, and then I learned few patterns, grew from 0 to now in 2 years, 400 million views a year.
Wow.
Give us the top 4 patterns you learned, because that again is something so many people want to emulate.
Number 1, there's a format that I follow, which is called ECG. So you create 5 pieces of content which is evergreen. So that people, which was relevant something yesterday, it's going to relevant today, and that's going to relevant tomorrow. So what this going to do is keep your audience engaged. कि चलो कुछ अपने topic में बना रहा है. Okay. C is controversial.
Okay.
So I create 3 pieces of content which are controversial, which are going to reach to masses. So that even if it's my niche, I'm going to talk about controversial stuff. So let's say even if it's business, I'm going to talk about the businesses which tanked, the things which are going down, all of that stuff, because that will get me so many views and new audience to pull in. And then 2 pieces of content are growth. So growth is only growing my core community. So I believe, so our why of what we do is to create more leaders and help them become personal brands. So I really love, because personal brand has shaped me into who I am. So like, I want to do that. So I create 2 pieces of content for that community to help them grow. Because these are the people who are gonna actually become your promoters.
And this is 5, 3 and 2 every month.
5, 3 and 2. I do, depending on, like, it can be a month, it can be a week, it can be whatever. I create a content every day.
And right, does that help? The frequency helps? Like
No, there's nothing related to frequency. See, at the end of the day, what you really want to do is, there's another one thing, quick hack, is respect the platform if you want platform to respect you. For example, you read annual reports and annual announcements of these platforms. Okay, Google, Facebook. What are they focusing on? So Facebook will automatically say, hey, this year, हम लोग यहाँ पे rank करते हैं. We are going to promote short content. So you know that you're not going to talk about anything else. Twitter talked about that we want to increase people's average duration per user. So it means that the threads will work. Because how will you do it? LinkedIn said that he want to make LinkedIn a fun workplace to be.
In Twitter, you say threads will work. If you write a long tweet, that's higher.
That was, I'm telling you, at that time when I did, I don't know what's going right now.
And what did you say for Instagram?
Instagram want to promote short content. When I started, I was doing this. And then LinkedIn said that we want to make fun environment workplace to do it. Fun means everybody was doing text. Can I do videos, dumps, and
very interesting
posts,
insight.
Right. So whatever the platform wants to promote, if your interests are aligned with that, they'll push you way faster than anyone else. So that was the second thing which I did, and then bunch of things. The third and the most important thing which I believe people do wrong in social is they try to make branded content, performance content, and shareable content together. And it's a losing strategy. So look at brands, right? They would promote, these are the 5 things that we stand for. Who the
Yeah.
Like we don't, right? There, if you want to do it in like phases. Like once in a while you're talking about values, once in a while you're doing it, right? Now, the only thing, if you want to grow, you should think about how can you make people share more or save more. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
Engagement, yeah.
The engagement, likes
Nothing.
don't matter, views don't matter,
Only share
comments
and
don't matter,
save.
shares and saves.
And how do you get people to share?
So there are different tricks you do it, right? So based on content. One of the basic contents is, if you're an educational content, right? Pick up your target audience. Either you attack your target audience or you make them feel smart. Or you attack them. You break their belief system. So you'll get polarizing audience, but the half of the polarizing audience, they'll
Really
share
engage, yeah.
everywhere.
Interesting.
One thing which you can do, you can play on the relationships, right? You can take one side of a relationship and make a content, let's say, for every girlfriend to share it with the boyfriends, every boyfriend to share it with their fathers, right? Like
Right,
just
right.
so you play on that. So there are multiple ways you can do it. So there's you just think about how you can make your content share, because that's all matters.
This is incredibly useful.
Yeah,
'cause
the virality.
everybody starting a brand from 0 to 1 in today's world also has to build a social media following.
Yeah.
It's a big advantage, right? Their own distribution.
Sharing and saving.
Sharing and
Sharing
saving.
and saying.
And ECG.
No, very useful, yeah. It's very helpful.
Very valuable.
Very valuable.
Kishore, everybody knows already. He's been here and he's like the original rock star of this particular podcast. Would you like to tell us what have you been doing since March? And any insights you're seeing in the market since then? Are you seeing that drop in consumption I was talking about earlier?
Yes, we are talking to a lot of people, and but I think this year is a what you call a Adhik Mas. The Diwali is 1 month later. So
Later,
everything
correct.
is 1 month ahead.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, every marketer follows the calendar month. And that's a serious issue. In India, you should follow the other
Festival calendar, yeah.
Festival calendar.
Correct.
And
No,
that's
the
not
season is
getting
shorter.
followed. So that's why I think there will be a little bit of mismatch. Secondly, I think inflation might be playing a little bit here and there.
Do you think interest rates have gone to that point where they've started seriously hitting consumption?
I think the data of FMCG which came in for August was quite disappointing.
It was
in a way.
disappointing.
It was showing 11% lower than last month, and even year to year it was around 12-13%
Yes.
lower.
I think that metric is true across the board.
Yeah.
Me and Ananth were at a dinner and I was asking one payment gateway guy, one electric vehicle guy. I was asking Ananth in fashion. Everybody offline seems to be saying consumption has fallen off in the last 2 months. I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but Amazon India grew by just about 5% this year. Flipkart 7-8% based on higher end electronics and premiumization, which seems to be growing. But everything seems to be slowing down. And I was trying to figure out, is that it? Like festivals? Is there some festivals and
That is
interest
one-
rate?
I always believe there are multiple reasons for anything to happen. There are like 5 elements make the planet. I think there are multiple elements which creates the market or makes the market go lower. So there are multiple. I think interest rate is one of the things. Festival calendar is another thing. Thirdly, there was a little bit of a fatigue also. Because after COVID, the consumption came about and then the fatigue factor also set in. I personally believe the inflation has played I think we are getting formalized as an economy, and formal economy is more expensive than a informal economy. I think that's playing around a little bit. For the first time, the formalization is quite complete now,
Yeah.
and that means 18% extra. And I think that's a big.
Is that a
thing.
big hit, this GST component?
For a
on
consumer?
consumption?
It's a
consumer
hit.
it is,
For a
right?
consumer, it is.
For consumer, it is.
For one segment of the population, maybe not, but for the rest of the segment of the population, it's.
How much do you think in India in terms of trade happens offline and how much happens with GST?
I think the formalization is quite there now.
I think almost there, yeah.
It's
I don't
quite
think, I
there.
think there'll be very few leakages. Nikhil. So, I mean, I just wanted to add, I think, by the way, on the consumption, I'll cover a little bit of the online. My sense, by the way, is you really accelerated the online adoption and increased consumption for those 12, 14, 18 months during COVID, right? I think now it's stabilizing again, right?
But even what he's talking is even offline is showing some
So
fatigue,
offline,
yeah.
by the way, I think two thoughts that I have. I think your point on inflation, I think, is absolutely true. The other is, I mean, if you do really compress the season, it's
No, I have another story also to talk about here, which will be interesting. I think there are, a consumer has a budget. I remember a time when mobile phone was just launched, and every mobile became a item of fashion and which used to change every 6 months.
yeah.
And that time the budget of the consumer went away from fashion to mobile phone.
Correct.
So there are so many new interests which has developed.
No, and also, for
And
example,
that-
travel has
that
come
is
back.
also- yeah,
So
travel-
I think
I'm
India
looking-
consumption, in my mind, people are spending on experiences.
In fact, even this year I was reading a stat that live shows, live concerts and
Growing
clubs
the
have
fastest.
have
Growing the
grown
fastest.
really, really fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So
People are spending.
what FMCG product would you add in the experience category?
I did not experience, but look at the restaurants business. A lot of new restaurants, a lot of new experiences coming up, and everything is getting adopted in a way. So there are new categories which are emerging.
I think health as a focus has been interesting. I mean, for us, one interesting thing is we have a peanut butter brand called MyFitness. I mean, I didn't think that peanut butter was that large a category, but it's growing like crazy because what's happening is people actually want to, the mother feeding the jam sandwich is now saying, I want to do something healthier for the child. The vegetarian who's working out, by the way, wants to sort of have some protein. So it's interesting. So there's consumption shifting into more healthy eating, for example, right? And that, by the way, there's no growth slowdown, right? So I think your point of budget getting resplit into various other parts of consumption, I think is probably one of the biggest reasons.
Also there, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other trends you're noticing in the last 3-4 months?
The trend which is definitely emerging or which is being discussed is how a lot of new digital brands are shaping up. And there's a new story which everybody is coming out with, and a story is building that brand. Yeah. So that's something which we are observing, and we believe that's another opportunity because it's catering to one segment of the population, and that population has a lot of disposable income, and they are experimenting with lots and lots of things. Yeah.
So me and Kishore were on a call recently. He was sharing his insights on, can I say geographical insights?
Yeah.
Should we go through that entire thing just so that people can learn from it?
No, I was presenting something which was saying that that 30 million, 3 crore households in this country
Okay.
are basically contributing to 60% of India's consumption. And I was talking about value-added consumption and in terms of value.
Yeah.
And within that 3 crore or 30 million families,
Yeah.
there is a Singapore, which is, let's say, 60 lakh people. They are exactly consuming like that. They are behaving like that.
Yeah.
Then there is a Poland, which is another 2.5-3 crore people.
Interesting. Yeah.
Very similar GDP, similar per capita.
Yep.
And then there is Mexico, which is around 7-8 crore people.
You want to talk about India 1, India 2, the distinction?
No, that theory we did speak about last time also. And
But I think this time you have gone like a little bit in depth, right?
yeah, we've gone quite a lot in depth. And I believe that the rest of India, which is the balance India, which is Singapore, Poland and Mexico, they are like sub-Saharan numbers, 1100 per capita.
Yeah.
And the value-added consumption, we don't see value-added consumption in this large group, which is nearly 1.3 million people, 1.3 billion. So the consumption which is happening, which is value-added, and
Is
the
in a much
economy
smaller group.
is a much smaller group, maybe around 10-12 crore people.
Yep.
And this 10-12 crore people can be represented as what I say India 1. India 1 is anybody who has domestic help. They don't do some
Interesting.
things on their own. And then there is India 2, which helps you to lead a better life. The drivers, the helpers, the peons, the maids, the watchmen, the liftmen, and they are huge in numbers.
Right.
For every one India 1, there are 3.5 India 2s. And then there is India 3, which is the farm laborers. They make their ends meet and they are on government aid. So where will the consumption ultimately happen? And where will the value-added consumption happen? Because the economy has to grow, the value-added consumption has to grow. And India has been created in a different, our societies have been built in a very different way, wherein the consumption is more by people who have reached somewhere. And we don't give enough money to India to make them.
But is India one growing quite fast?
It's not growing so fast.
Okay.
Which is growing
Can I add
fastest,
something
India
else?
1, 2 or 3?
I think I would say India 1 is only growing maybe a percentage a year, maybe less than
In
that.
terms of consumption.
No, 1% adding up to
same.
that fold.
Yeah.
And India 2?
India 2 is growing because India 3 people coming to India 2 is always, they're the larger chunk in any case.
So you're saying the middle class is getting bigger?
I don't know, middle class is defined by income groups and all. In India, income groups don't...
Can I add something on India 1, India 2, India 3? Because I've been spending a lot of time on that. Because I read it in It Happened in India before, right?
I still stick to that, yeah.
So I believe like India 1, India 2, India 3 definitely has to do a lot with income. But it also has to do with awareness and choices. So I'll give you an example. India 1, India 2, India 3, just like, put them for lack of better words, customer 1, customer 2, customer 3.
Yeah.
They all exist in same house with same income group as well. And I'll tell you why. Okay.
Explain same house, same income.
So I'll give you, let's say me, my brother, my father. Okay. My father would use one soap, वो एक डव उठाएंगे, वो बाल भी धो लेंगे, मुंह भी धो लेंगे, पूरी body धो लेंगे. He'll do one product.
Yeah.
Right? He's using less products, just 50 to 200 products.
Yep.
I would do a face wash, a shampoo, and a body wash. My brother would do a shampoo, a conditioner, a face wash, a scrub, or like 10 things, right?
Right.
So he's India 1,
But
who's
they all-
using like
no,
10,000
but
products.
all three are India 1.
Yeah, yeah.
So, no, I'm saying that customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, like comparatively, my father would use only 25 to 30 products around it.
Yeah, so he's consuming less number of items or SKUs as we call it, yeah.
So that's exactly
But ultimately will come in that same family of India 1.
No, but Kishore, your point is, by the way, there is,
Consumption.
call it, I think one is the number of customers, which is you're saying, call it 100, 110, 120 million, roughly, right? That's what you're saying.
if you assume four people per family, 30
120 million
families.
roughly. Yeah. So the second, by the way, is maybe the number, let's just take that number for a minute. The consumption of those 100, 120 million, I think the point Raj is trying to make is it continues to increase.
yes.
Yeah, it is increasing.
Right.
There is no debate.
But he's
I
saying
think
by a very low percentage.
But that consumption of this 12 crore people is close to 800 billion plus.
No, I feel people who have...
Is that number going up? The consumption
Yeah,
of
obviously,
this?
that's
has
going
to be
up.
going
By
up,
what
yeah.
percentage?
That's going up. For this India 1, the consumption is going up.
Yeah.
But then why is that not reflecting in,
It's
say,
reflecting.
Amazon, Flipkart
It's
and all that?
reflecting, no, but...
See, I don't think you can take 1 quarter worth of data
you can't
and
look at
generalize
two
this, right?
categories alone.
I mean, and you can't, yeah. So
How
that
much do you
consumption
think
is
it's
going
going up by, percentage-wise? You said 800 billion.
I think it's growing a lot. On this India 1, the
You would say
consumption
upward
is
of 20-30%?
maybe in excess of 10% for sure.
Do you think it's growing because of increasing consumption or premiumization? Is the
Both.
volume growing or is the
It's
price point
I think
growing?
they have discretionary income and they have surplus incomes and they have to spend that money. Like in his family, like the next generation is consuming more than the previous generation. And
it is both, I think. For sure, there's premiumization, but I also think people buy more things,
yeah.
right? I mean, you just end up buying more things,
So
right?
Awareness also is increasing.
we did some
That's
analysis.
how
We did some analysis. Ananth was India 1 consumes close to 100,000 items in their lifetime. India 2 is maybe 10,000. In India 3 is 1,000.
And would
Where
you
is
like to
it?
list the top items? I know you have it in your research. Where does India 1 spend the most money?
I think there's lifestyle food, but I think look at the kind of food which is getting consumed today by India 1. I would say the Singapore and the Poland side. I think they've premiumized to a great extent, from asparagus to avocados to health food. Everybody is consuming, every family member is consuming a different kind of breakfast and different kind of food. I think going out again by India 1, which is Poland and Singapore, is significant. Even Mexico, in a way.
So how would you categorize the income ranges of Singapore, Poland,
Singapore would be, I would say, more than a family household income of 30-40 lakhs plus.
And what percentage of...
That will be a small percent. I would say, no, this will be around 60 lakh plus.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Singapore income will be closer to 100, 120K. I mean, USD. So it's you're closer to like a
90 lakhs.
90 lakhs to a crore. But
and the Poland would be in excess of 20-25 lakhs. And Mexico would be much little lesser than
yes,
that. Yeah.
yes.
maybe around 12 lakhs.
12,
And
15. in that
majority
range.
of India one is in Mexico, right?
Majority is in Mexico, around 8 crores. Another research which we found out was the total packaged good consumption in India, FMCG packaged good in value terms, is 70% of excess is by this India one. Beauty close to 85%.
Yeah.
And eating out in restaurants close to 78%. So it's significant in high 50s, 60, fruits 65, 70%.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say going back to, you're talking about brand building, right? I mean, 120 million is still a very large number,
A huge number.
right? Still.
But I'm guessing for anyone planning to build a brand 0 to 1 has to focus on that 120 million.
Yeah. I think has to
Broadly.
focus on a much narrower piece.
Wherever you want a margin of more than 40 to 60%.
Correct. I've now met some 800, 900 of these founders, right? 832, I think is the exact number. But I think there's a clear pattern on what works and what doesn't work for the first 20 crores of
Are
starting.
there any other insights here? Like out of this 120 million, how many of them prefer paying through UPI, credit card, cash? What percentage may be online versus offline?
This 100 million will all be online.
Also online.
I think my sense is, by the way, they may not do all their purchases online, but they will 100% be online.
They would have experienced online definitely.
They would have experience online definitely.
So they have a credit card or UPI?
100% would be by sense.
More likely UPI than credit
UPI
card.
more than
Everything.
credit.
Credit card also 3 crore users, 3.5 crore users in this country. So they will all come here.
And are these users, this 120, concentrated in between the metropolitan cities?
Oh no.
I would say the top 100 cities
Yeah.
significantly.
But top 100, right?
Top
not
100.
metro. I mean,
Not
it's
metro.
like very
Top
large
100.
as a spread.
How much do you think will be in the metros? Because I'm trying
The
to think
top,
of someone
would
building.
be 60% plus.
So if you open 10 stores, have an online thing, distribution in 10 cities, you cater to 60% of
Yeah.
the 120 million?
Yeah. For the value-added consumption,
Explain-
wherein the margins are higher.
Explain what is value
Value-added is how much value you are adding. If you are buying a product or making a product at 1 rupee, at what multiple you are selling it? It has to be in excess of 3 times.
And that value add
COGS
by
to
virtue of
MRP,
creating a brand.
Yeah, then you are creating a brand.
By the way, one slight thing on the same topic, I think it was quite interesting for me. If you take the top 100 cities, at least in the e-commerce world, the outside metro cities, I don't know what the exact split, is growing much, much faster.
But it will be growing. But you have to see the value of the merchandise which you are selling. I believe India is all about per kilo realization, whether it's a garment, whether it's a towel, whether it's a FMCG product, or whether it's a detergent. It's a per kilo realization of something and where you can reach.
Yeah. No, the reason I'm saying is when we launched, I mean, at least in Myntra, when you launch premium products, it was quite interesting. Always, by the way, the places that didn't have the malls, but in the top 100 cities would sell the most. I mean, Polo Ralph Lauren, when we launched, would sell in like Nellore and Chittoor
Yeah,
and
but
so
it will
on,
sell,
right?
but how many people from that city?
It's actually, if you add up all of them, it was a
You add
reasonable
up all
chunk.
the cities put together, but add up for a particular city. There is a store in Bombay, Hermes. So it's the most popular brand of the world. 60 people account for 80% of the business. And that's among the top few stores of Hermes in the world.
How much does Nikhil account for?
And they're typically Bombay based.
They are, I don't know.
I don't buy anything from them.
No?
So I'll tell you what, in the
For
last,
yourself or for friends? Or like, none?
I'll tell you in the last 3-4 years,
Yeah.
I've completely stopped buying from ultra luxury brands like Hermes and LV and all that because I feel they play you. Their entire marketing strategy seems to be to offend and get some kind of a reaction out of you and then buy from them.
Right.
Like, they'll tell you,
Nikhil has achieved nirvana, self-actualization.
Got it. No more of the...
'cause that
Top
is
of the hierarchy.
that is the most offensive thing. Like to go to a shop where they're marking up a product 1:1,000 times.
Yeah.
And then saying you can't buy this product until you build
Get
a
on a
relationship
list,
with
build a
us,
relationship, yeah.
get on a list, do all of these hoops that you have to jump through. It's not because they can't manufacture more of that. They can go make 1 million of those bags and stuff. But that strategy of being arrogant has worked so well for them that I think people have to be cognizant to that and, kind of like...
So, Nikhil, in early days, like Big Bazaar was created on 3 things. Greed, fear, and we used to call it altruism to a certain extent. The brand can be built on this. Greed is that it is available at a lower price. Fear is that it won't be available after a while.
Yeah.
And secondly, all the brands are built on appealing to your ego and vanity. Yeah.
How does Big Bazaar do it, for example, like a budget supermarket, distinguish themselves from Hermes or however you call it? Like, what is the differentiation? What part of ego are you going after? And
We are
what
going
they
after
going
greed and fear. And they are going after your ego and vanity.
Yeah, I think all fancy shopping is based on manipulation. I
Yeah.
feel when you go buy a BMW, for example, it has very little to do with how the car truly feels, but it is the perception subconsciously sold to you that a certain kind of person drives this kind of a car.
Of course.
Because in isolation, if we were not to be social beings,
Yeah.
if you had a BMW at home, after 1 week, you're not going to go look at it, admire it, and drive it and be like, wow, this is amazing.
Correct.
Any car you'll get bored of, right? It's
Yes.
like everything else in life. But I think that marketing messaging, right? Like what BMW has created.
Yeah.
They've forgotten the car for a second.
Hey,
and
it's the
they
ultimate
said,
driving machine.
this person
Yeah.
who you aspire to
Yeah.
drives this car.
Yeah.
I think we have to figure out how to help people who are building brand 0 to 1 build what BMW built in a different manner for a different world. I think Raj will have some insights there because he's kind of building that bridge with House of X.
So I'll tell you, it's not only luxury brands. I think this also
Applies
mass
to
brands
mass
do
and
the
mass
every
premium
brand
brands.
does the
Yeah,
same
of
thing.
course.
They try to play on showing you an ideal image of somebody you will become. Like the classic examples in India I could give is the complete man. Like
Yep.
you know,
Thank you.
Raymond's.
like the complete man
Yeah.
Raymond's.
Yeah.
What they would do is, hey, a man, if you want to be a complete man, you would wear this. It's an ideal situation they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So they always do that. It doesn't go with luxury. It goes with everywhere. In fact, it goes with kids as well.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
I'm a compliant girl. I'm a compliant boy. Everybody, they got a reason to do this, right? So at the end of the day, you want to tell stories, and that's how you sell. And one of the classic examples is you sell an ideal state who you're not. So
By the way, always
there's
fashion
nothing
is designed
new
for
in
young
it.
people.
There's nothing new in it.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the big, like what I believe in is, so let's say luxury brands don't want to sell it to people who have money. They want to sell it to people who don't have money. And the reason is that, like that's how they are able to build their brands in that way. So they want to sell it to like, you're not their ideal TG, Nikhil.
No, but
That's,
no.
But you know, they want to sell it to someone who will save for this LV bag for months and then come out.
But that's not happened in India yet.
Yeah.
No. It's still there in, I think it's happened in China and a lot of other countries.
And the US maybe, but
US, not in India yet.
At least in, I
also think
can
so.
tell you that I don't have any data, but my experience amongst my friends, people are saving up for the cars which they want to show
car,
off.
yes.
People are saving up for the watches they want to show
car
off.
and house, I
watches,
think for
yes.
sure.
And the biggest thing that is happening is shoes, sneakers.
Sneakers just started happening, yes.
Yeah, so the people
Not
are
for
saving up for
handbags and
sneakers.
all yet.
Not?
Not
the
for handbags,
handbags and all.
not for clothes yet, maybe.
So, but
your
like
point is
girls are saving for handbags. Like a lot of my friends, and I can name 20 at least, not more than that, but 20 who've been saving to buy an LV bag on their birthday or like a Gucci.
Interesting.
So I think
we are
this-
out of touch, yeah.
because this so our generation people do save up to buy this, and in fact surprising other like boyfriends and girlfriends save up to gift to their partners, right? This is, and it's happening, and a lot of people can relate to it because we do save.
Somebody was telling me 70% of iPhones in India are bought on credit. Do you think that's true for bags and sneakers as well? Are people borrowing to buy these things?
I don't know about bags specifically. Sneakers, I know there are a lot of people who do buy on credits. There's a monthly payment system with retailers. In fact, a lot of my friends, what they've started doing is, क्या मेरा birthday है तो मुझे, like, you know, have friend peer-to-peer lending, and then they would buy something expensive to show it off and then do it. Like that's.
By the way, I think it's so there's a product called BNPL, Buy Now Pay Later.
Yeah.
BNPL is among the fastest growing in all e-commerce firms.
Is that important? Like if
yes,
you're building a brand from
we are
0
seeing
to
that.
1,
Yeah.
if you just figured out a niche,
Yeah.
you started building a consumer brand there.
Yeah.
How do you integrate BNPL? You're a new company, you're starting at 0.
I think, by the way, BNPL gets automatically integrated as you think about e-commerce or even your own website.
Once
because
your
all of them-
platform has scaled, then do people come and approach you, or from the very beginning?
you can do that
I
from
think
day
you can
one,
do
like
it
we
from
did it
day
from day
zero,
one.
right? I
But
think
you do that with your credit card company or your
Also,
payment
You
gateway?
can do it with
Also.
your, you can do it
Like
with your payment
simple
gateway.
and, like, these are the
you know,
people
there
that do
are,
it.
so once you have a payment gateway and some data, there are multiple firms that allow you buy now, pay later facilities. Obviously, by the way, the Flipkarts, the Amazons of the world all have inbuilt programs that are quite large. But even if you're a D2C website, you can get buy now, pay later.
Do
with
they
no problem.
share a part of the carry on the interest they charge with the platform?
Of course. Of course.
And what is the rate of interest typically?
I think it's high. I don't
very
remember
high.
the date off the top of my head, the interest off the top of my
20
head. but
plus?
Yeah, 20
it'll be
plus.
20 plus for sure. Be 20 plus for sure.
Right. And very specifically, because we're talking about this particular influencer-led sales world. Now, beyond these LV and all of that, what is quiet luxury? Why? What part of someone's psychology is making them buy something for a crazy price while it should not look like it is expensive? What is working there? Anyone can answer that. Because I've read about this, that show is there, na?
I think quiet luxury in India is not yet a big of a
No,
concept.
there are
There's
customers.
like there are
like him.
customers.
But it'll be a TG which is like
Very, very small
minuscule,
TG.
right? I mean, my
No,
view.
but it's still interesting if it's working.
Conscious capitalism.
Yeah, so I would say, Nikhil, firstly, by the way, my sense is I think the market in India I think we're not yet evolved to a stage of restrained capitalism where you don't want to actually demonstrate that you bought something expensive. I think that market is very, very, very small.
But I think the
Right,
people who have arrived in life and they don't need to prove anything to anybody can easily move there.
But then why are they spending so much? Like my question is, see, I buy.
No, but for example, do you think a Patek is quite luxury? I'm just, in my mind, would that be?
Depends
because
on which,
you can't see it, right?
Depends on which model
No,
of
if
a
you don't
Patek.
buy a complication, you buy like a regular one.
If you buy like a Nautilus or something, it is not quite luxury because it's evidently an expensive watch that a lot of people know about. If you buy a Patek Constellation
Right.
or a Grandmaster Chime or
Correct.
something.
Right.
But I think regardless of that, I'm trying to figure out why somebody is paying $1,000 to buy a t-shirt which looks like a $100 t-shirt
Because-
or $50.
So I tell you, okay, so this is what my belief is. This is
Yeah.
nothing to do with data, but like a psychology, which
Sure.
I've seen people, right?
Yeah.
So all of us and everyone, we all do things to signal something. Okay.
Yeah.
So signaling value for everyone is high.
Yes.
Some people do signaling through just appearance. Some people do that by doing certain amount of deeds. And some people do it by stories. So for example, you want to talk about, let's say, an expensive watch in your hand, which a large majority of people can't see or understand.
Yeah.
Right? But you want to share that with your friends or the 5 people who care about, because they'll ask you. So you get your signaling value by stories, and that's quite luxury. So a quite luxury group
I think
will be
it's a
able to
smaller
spot on a
community.
t-shirt,
Yeah.
which is really expensive, but it just looks like a normal t-shirt. So you want to signal that particular value. So it just depends on, as a human being, who do you want to signal to?
So it's
and
bragging
what do you wanna
value
signal?
amongst your immediate
Who do you
circle.
want? Like, who do you care about signaling?
And it's a
Like, who
very
do you care
small
about?
community in
That's
this
a
case,
very,
right?
very
Very
small.
well said. I would say like I don't wear a watch nor a ring.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't show any brand on my clothes ever. Maybe that's the personality you want to show.
Because that's a signaling value
And
you
I
want to
actually
show.
really, I also thought it was quite insightful. I think signaling is the key sort of in this.
So
Interesting.
so this message of what you want to signal, is it authentic and organically personality type which determines what you want to signal, or is it what is cool in society at that point of time? Is that a manipulation too?
I genuinely believe it goes on 3 steps. Okay. First is because you just want to become cool amongst your peers. So whatever is trending, you want to do that. That's a certain level of signaling. Once you're done with that, then it goes with your preferences and choices. And then third is to achieve objectives that you want to achieve. So first example is like, if I am, let's say, a 50,000 rupee to 1 lakh rupee income person, I want to buy a really expensive shoe to show off my friends, because that's a physical value. Because like, this is cool. This new Jordan is becoming cool. I want to show that.
Yep.
Because it's trending, I want to show that. Once I reach like an upper level of income or whatever, maybe a taste and
Go
preference.
with all the brackets. It's just interesting.
Okay,
So
so-
you're 1 to 5 lakh person per month income.
And then when I reach, I feel this stays on with different products till 1 crore.
Yeah.
And then after 1 crore,
1 to 1 crore.
1 to 1 crore, like 50,000 to 1 crore. This is just different. The things keeps changing. Today you might just show off like a small watch. Tomorrow you want to
Monthly.
show off like a big car. So till 1 crore it goes there. After like 1 crore to couple of crores. I don't know that bracket. I'm just making it up. I'm just telling because of people. I can spot people who I can think of, but not the income band. So this is the second group. They go with preferences and choices.
Okay.
Like I want to signal that I am health conscious person. I am a not branded person. I prefer that I am environmentally friendly. So that's why there's Beko here. Like, this is just a signaling value which you want to just put it out, people, that these are my preferences and choices. This is what I stand for. And the third level, which I go for, which I've seen like ultra rich people, I've had like few encounters with people. They show off a certain level of image for a certain objective. And they want to do that signaling because their larger purpose is around that.
Explain.
So somebody would not be really, let's say, show off with brands and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they don't want other people to think that they are the branded stuff. They want to be like, hey, I have money, but I don't want you to see that I have this money. Then the signaling value can be somebody does like a great charity, doesn't speak about it.
Sure.
And want to hear it from other people.
Yeah.
That, oh, he did that, she did that. Right? He doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. Because that's a signaling value that I want to put out. That for your larger purpose, you want people to think that you're too much into charity. That's why you don't talk about it. Because if you talk about it, you technically come down to below level number.
So Nikhil, it's a very basic human trait that everybody's ego and vanity has to be massaged in some way.
Correct. Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. Correct.
It can be done in a reverse way and it can be done in a absolutely opposite way.
Yeah.
I think the interesting part here is how people evolve to figure out what their signaling mechanism is and what they want to signal. And is there a insight from them, from that category, to build a brand to these people? Because these are things you can utilize.
Yeah. Content you consume and people you hang out with. Large majority of influence happens with that.
See, I think community to brand building is the next big thing in my view. I think that
Explain, elaborate on that.
Yeah, so at least in the online world, I think my view is, look, there are a ton of influencers, and I think there's two sitting here, but I'm saying it is, after a point, it's not about some influencer coming and telling you. It is about what your friends and your community that you trust sort of feel. I'll give you an example. We have again, gardening, like random, right? But gardening is very community-based because you exchange tips, you think about why plants die and, what do you need to do and so on, right? And so having influencer-based marketing sometimes may or may not work.
Yep.
But actually, if you have a closed Facebook group, and there are many Facebook, like Insta groups, etc., where people genuinely actually talk about what their problems are. And in those, if you start to infiltrate and say, the brand comes organically, that's a very different way of building a brand.
True.
Right? And I think it's a very organic, always-on way of building a brand. And I think there are interesting involved categories where this community-based brand building is starting to be quite interesting. Right? And I think it's very sustainable. It's less expensive. It takes longer to build, but it's much more sustainable.
I'll add on to that. That's exactly what we're trying to accomplish with House of X, right? That's bang on. We're not doing influencer-led marketing. We do attention and community-led marketing.
Yeah.
Because here's what I believe in. Content builds community. Community brings culture.
Yeah.
And culture changes the way you buy. That's exactly the pattern that you follow.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why you need a content person who can create such a content on such a niche, who can create a community around it.
How important is it for somebody starting brand 0 to 1 to be able to create content and create community?
I think that's the way forward. And I'll tell you a logical reason behind it. Okay? The biggest reason that I feel is point of sale. Every time the majority of influence happens on point of sale. Okay, there's obviously different parts, digital, discovery, different percentage, but the large majority happens on the point of sale. So earlier, the point of sale used to happen on Kirana stores. Okay, wherever. So there would be, so think about it, in a random day, I ran out of my toothpaste. I use Colgate. I go to my Kirana store and there's no Colgate available. He's like, bhaiya, aaj aap close-up le jao, abhi bahut badhiya hai. I'll buy close-up and get home. That's point of sale. I'm influenced. If I like the flavor, done. I'm never using Colgate again. Okay. So that's used to be the old way of doing it. The second wave, which I think we're going through right now, was retail and marketplaces, where you go in search of something and you get convinced to buy something as well. That is Big Bazaar way, Amazon way, or all the places where you explore certain things,
Right.
right? So that's where the point of sale used to happen. Now where the point of sale is, the influence is happening right there on the content. So you're exploring Instagram every day, you're seeing, or YouTube right now, you're seeing, hey, this person is using this mixer, ये अच्छा लग रहा है इसके बारे में, click तो कर देखता हूँ. He clicks it, then and there, Instagram autofills your information, and then you can check out. Depending on your income level,
Yeah.
you can just check out. Somebody buy like a 50 rupee or 100 rupee product there right off the bat. Somebody would buy like a 10,000, 12,000 or 10 lakh rupee product right off the bat.
Right.
But the point of sale is changing, and because the point of sale is constantly changing because of the content we consume, I think that's why people need to build content-led communities in order to go ahead. Now, does that mean that the Kirana and the marketplaces and online is going to die? Not at all. Did with marketplaces, Kirana died? No. So every time a new layer gets add on, you just have to capitalize on all three. But I think there's an interesting play that you can start building community or creator-led commerce and start making products there. And then eventually, once you have enough money, you can play on other platforms.
So I just had one question actually, and then a comment. I think the comment is, I fully agree on the brand building through community. I think the question I had actually was, when you're in a mind state of consuming content, many times you don't transact because you're not going to buy. I mean, when you're reading an article, you're not necessarily in the mood to buy. The reason marketplaces like Myntra, Amazon, Flipkart, etc. work is you go in with an intent to shop, right? There's a commerce intent. Are you seeing that change where people are actually buying more? Because Insta shopping hasn't really taken off globally, right? In any meaningful manner. I mean, at the Instagram level, I'm saying.
But streaming in China has.
See, that's the only exception that I can think of, right?
Well,
I think,
and
that is also, by the way, shopping-led streaming.
Because his point is bang on, that when you go with the mindset of consuming content, do you shop or no? So live streaming and social commerce is working because people go with the mindset of that I want to buy.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a great deal, I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
That's the mindset they're going with. Okay.
Can I ask you a question? If you're shooting this podcast
Yeah.
and say we're shooting this show, 3 years from now, if somebody likes the shirt you're wearing, they can just click it and it'll get bought in a second.
Yeah.
You think the world will go there?
By the way, I mean, never say never, but my sense is I think that will still be a very small percent. Because I think human beings are still human beings, right? But now or later. And I think, by the way, if you're watching something on content, right, you're trying to learn how to build a brand, right? And I think that's what you're really focused on. You're not focused particularly on shopping. Now, will some percentage convert? Of course they will. But can you do brand building that way? 100%. I agree with the community point, which is what we originally spoke about. And the brand building through community. I think that will happen for sure.
So here's, I want to complete that loop, that when people go on to consume content, right? I think it's very difficult for us to decide if I am today in a mood to buy or no.
Yeah.
So because mostly majority of time of younger people, of everybody in fact now, is spent on consuming content through different means, either by YouTube, Instagram, social media platform, anything. You don't actually know whether you're in a mood to buy or no. You don't know it's a first day of salary or it's a last day of salary. It's just you're in a hope that, okay, I'm going to create content. So I was talking about 3 C's, right? Conversation, convincing, and then conversion. All 3 can happen just there. I can have a conversation, the brand building gets, brand gets built, that I'm talking about, hey, this t-shirt is amazing. And we talk about it. I can do little convincing where we can talk about quite luxury and stuff like that. And then someday there'll be technology where you can directly buy and convert. There'll be small percentage of conversion, but large percentage of convincing and a larger percentage of conversation starts.
See, I think great framing. I think only tweak I would add to it is I think there are categories that are inspiration and browse-led, and there are categories that are functional, right? Just broadly. If you think about browse categories, where you need to be, nobody needs to buy 3 shirts or 2 dresses. I mean, you don't, right? You buy it because you're inspired to buy because of something.
Yeah, see, the whole point of this, right? This is like a charity project. Like I keep saying this.
So you want people to learn something.
I want people who want to build a brand today, young guys, 0 to 1, to learn everything they might need from all of your experiences.
Sure.
Like, I don't mean like 20% of it, 30% of it. We want to teach them 100%.
Got it.
Because eventually we need more brands in India which are going to scale, which are Indian-led, Indian-owned, all of that.
Yeah.
True.
So I think next section, we'll take a 1 minute break.
No, but are you going to give us food at some point or no food?
Yeah, food. Okay, guys, ready?
Should we? So I think the question was just getting started, right? Yeah. And I think my perspective comes from sort of talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs who have sort of built businesses, call it between 0 and 25, 30 crores, were the people that I initially spoke to try and get there. I think there are some patterns on what you need to do. And I think the break points for me are 0 to 20, 20 to 100, 100 to 500 and 500 and above, right? In terms of net revenue. You're talking about
crores.
Crores. So in the first 0 to 20 crores, in my mind, I think it is all product driven, word of mouth driven, community that we talked about and content driven, but it is not performance marketing driven. You should have great reviews. You should have great repeat rates. You should have great social media following. You should be part of a community, right? I think if you can build it that way, you're building it in a very healthy manner. So the product quality is probably the most important thing in my mind to get right, followed by content and community, followed by distribution strategy. I think you talked about distribution strategy. I think from the 0 to 20 crores, if you can keep an 80-20%, where 80% is e-commerce platforms and 20% is D2C, it's a great mix because then you have enough consumer data, but you also have reach, right, that you can actually get to. So my theory is if you can get the first 20 crores this way, it's like a very healthy way to grow if you're going to start a brand.
But I don't agree at one place, 80% marketplace. Marketplace is very difficult to build a brand and talk about the brand. You
yes,
get the top line, yes.
No, but yes and no. I think it depends on what the platform is. I think, for example, if you can actually take part in a program within an Amazon or a Myntra, I think you can actually get to showcase it. I'm saying, look,
Not
it's
so
the
easy.
easiest way to, I think there are ways to growth hack, Kishore, in my view. I think, for example, if you're a D2C star program and you can actually sort out an interesting deal in Myntra, it's a great way to grow because you have a brand page. You're able to represent it, right?
But you are representing a brand in the way they want you to represent. That's the challenge.
Yes, I think within some constraints for sure.
Yeah.
But I still think, by the way, it gives you... See, for me, I'm not trying to fully do brand building yet. I'm trying to make sure there's product market fit and make sure that this... See, if you're a new person starting off, what do you need? You need to sort of get to some scale. If you need external funding, you need to be able to get external funding. And you need to start having enough runway for you to be able to build from the 20 to 100, right? So for me, just very practically, right? If you focus 100% on D2C, for example, I think you can represent the brand, but you'll end up bleeding money, which means, by the way, you'll have to raise money much sooner, right?
I personally believe a little bit differently. I believe if the brand is not right, the packaging is not right, the color is not right. There are color codes, there is brand codes for everything.
Yes.
And if you don't get it right, nothing will go right.
I, by the way, think, Kishore, the opposite. I think there are lots of bad brands that get sold through performance marketing.
No, it's not about...
Just give me 1 minute, right? Just to complete this, right? So I can tell you 50 brands in Myntra that basically grew on subsidy, right? Which is either you threw a discount at it or you threw a performance marketing at it, but it can't sustain beyond a certain number because repeats don't come, right? So I'm saying the first 20 crores may get a consumer right?
I'm not talking about 20 crores. I'm talking overall if you don't get the brand right. Because I personally believe brand is like making a spaceship.
Yeah.
People take it very lightly. Because brand has to communicate a lot. It has to emote with you. It has to talk to you. And if that is not correct, a great product also can't do anything.
But I'll tell you, by the way, just one thing. I think having a great brand view and not a great product.
No,
also
brand and
death,
product has to be right.
Right? No, I'm saying you have still a chance to correct the brand from 20 to 100. If you have to take a chance.
It will not work. You will not reach 20 crores.
I think you can. Right? So...
Give us an example.
Yeah, so...
and the brand was not right and the product was great and it happened.
No, I'll give you an example, right? I think Dennis Lingo, which is a brand of ours, wasn't particularly built as a brand. It was a 20 crore odd brand.
But it works in India. We started a brand called John Miller. People accepted it as an American brand.
Peter England, by the way, did it right. I think
so. Same thing you used it.
No, but I'm saying, but you
so
can build a brand on top
thought
of
there.
that.
But there is a brand thought there.
No, I think there is a brand thought there. But I'm saying the first, the most limited time when you want to start something is your time. The question
But
is, what are
somebody
the four
thought about
things
the
you
name,
focus on?
somebody thought about the brand.
Of
So
course,
there was a work
of course,
done there.
Of course. That I'm not disagreeing with Kishore. There has to be
But if
some
you don't
work.
get the brand right, nothing goes right. That's my theory. We have seen it all.
I have
our
a
life.
different theory. We may not have to agree on it, right? But
Yeah,
my different
obviously.
theory, by the way, is that I think it is important to be consistent. It is important to have great product quality. But I don't think you need the complete brand definition, because I think a brand can continue to evolve from 20 to 100 crores as well. Right? Just different theory. Right? And it will be interesting to sort of debate out, because I can give you multiple examples of companies where if you don't get the product right, and there's a lot of focus on brand building, getting the brand story, the brand book right, you spend on...
Brand book and brand doesn't make a brand, yeah. Anyway, I think we are saying the same thing, but coming from a different way.
Maybe coming from a different point of view.
Can I digress you a little bit?
Sure.
So many large brands in India,
Yeah.
from Louis Philippe to
Yeah.
Peter England,
Sure.
to a certain extent Jockey.
Yeah.
Jockey might be a franchisee, but the others,
Yeah.
we put foreign models
Yeah.
on a brand that has nothing to do with anything outside of India,
Yeah.
and call them names like, like John whatever and Peter whatever and
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
It worked for a long time.
Yeah.
Will it work?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it... so, for example, we have a brand called Karagiri, and it's working just as well. And it's for saris.
But that's an ethnic
brand.
Yeah.
If you can find the right name that actually... See, you're wearing Western wear at some level. Why is it that a Peter England or an Alan Solly has some appeal, right? It connotes of Western wear. I mean, so at some level, I agree with you, Kishore, right? Saying ethnic wear is ethnic, but I'm saying Western wear is Western, right? I mean, at some level, the reverse is also true, right? So, but I have an interesting anecdote on the color of the models. So, I think it's changing. But one of the things, for example, if you go to a Myntra, you find that everybody is fair-skinned,
White.
right? White, to do this. And we ran an experiment where you actually look at click-through rates long time ago. And you find that the click-through rates are actually different. So purely economically, the click-through rates on performance marketing were higher. Now, I think that was 15 years ago. Oh, sorry, that was 5-7 years
Elaborate.
ago.
You're saying when you had a white
So if
person
you had
as a model,
yeah,
your click-through was higher.
yeah, the click was higher. This was 7-8 years ago.
Why?
I don't know. I think it may be
It's a belief system.
It's a belief system. Maybe it's a mindset, right? As we sort of think about it, maybe people think it's more premium. I don't know. But I think there is some instinctive
Is it some
mindset.
kind of colonial baggage that we believe that Western products are better than Indian ones?
See,
there's-
I think for sure there is. But look, I mean, I'm not a big into theory, right? But the facts are the following. The click-through rates on one were better than the other, right? I mean, and that was a fact. And I think, will it change? I think the answer is it will, but it will be slow progression. It's not going to change overnight, right? So going a little... Sorry.
Has it changed? If I were to be building a brand of t-shirts today,
Yeah.
should I call it John Jacob and get some white South Serbian models to look like American models on the campaign?
I don't... Yeah. So I think it's a good question.
Myntra does it very well.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. So I think the brand name, I agree a little bit with Kishore. I think you have to think through it carefully and thoughtfully. I think the name has to mean something, and it has to be see, people don't remember facts, Nikhil. People remember stories. I think we spoke about this slightly earlier. So the brand name has to have a brand story associated with it. It may not be fully crafted, but you need a germ of an idea, right? In terms of what that is, and that needs to be consistent. Will I launch a t-shirt brand with a Western sounding name? Possible, but
Will
you have
it
to
work
think
more?
through it.
I'll
Today.
tell you, I want to add on this, right? It definitely works more. Like even we've seen examples after examples.
Yeah.
But I think now that you can change that with content and community again. The reason why I'm saying this is every time you buy a brand, you need to feel proud. So if you can make people feel proud in an Indian brand, they'll buy it. In a Serbian brand, they'll buy it. Something from Greece coming from a buy. Is this you need to find out your people who can actually find you worthy enough and they can be proud in buying your things.
I think
now
meaning
why
is a good
does
one.
this fair-skinned, foreign-looking model and foreign names work? Because it's not just you who's making that community proud. There are 500 other brands also trying to do it. So that's why it just works better. Because there are 500 people trying to make this look really good. So
Explain.
So example, let's say Peter England is trying the same thing. John Jacobs is trying to do the John Miller is trying to do the same thing. Dennis Lingo is trying to do the same. I'm just giving example.
Yeah, sure.
Myntra. There are 20 more people apart from you who are showing this as a premium brand. That's why the consolidated money just grows up there and makes you feel more upgraded and premium. Versus you individually just pushing it. But can you individually do it? Yes. The biggest community and content-led example is Baba Ramdev. Right? You can sell that, you can do it and make it super Indian and actually do it. That's the biggest creator-led story in India that has happened.
Okay, I'm going to reframe my question. Barring content and community, neither of which I have, I want to start a t-shirt brand today.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to put some print on the t-shirt, which is in English. What is the path of least resistance? Where do I have the most tailwind?
So firstly, by the way,
Depends
sorry. I just had a slightly different framing of this, right? If I want to start a brand today, I don't know, by the way, unless there's something reasonably unique about the t-shirt brand with some meaning that I want to start, whether I would start a t-shirt brand.
Really good quality.
Yeah, it's too generic and too general, right? I think so. The first thing to do is, how crowded is the space? How large is the space? And do I have a unique value proposition? So, for example, I won't launch one more ethnic brand.
How does someone learn that?
T-shirt brand.
How does someone learn that? If I'm thinking of t-shirt, how do I learn how crowded is the space?
I think the easiest way, actually, and the most practical way, is to go search for t-shirts on Myntra and find how many choices and how many brands you have. It's a representation of the market.
You'll have that for every category.
You have it for a lot of categories, but I'm saying, some categories are low ASP and huge variety.
What is ASP?
Average selling price, right? So low ASP products with high competition is not something that I would go and do a brand in. See, if you want to launch something, right? So the first 20, the question is focus. We spoke about this earlier also. Focus on something which is a niche. Be a shark in a pond, right? For this, so that you can actually differentiate in some meaningful manner. At least for the first 20 crores, right? Just to complete my framing, since it's taking a little bit of time, the 20 to 100 crore, in my mind, the skill, especially if you're doing it online, has to be around most efficient performance marketing, most efficient use of community for brand building, so that you don't spend a lot of money on brand building, but you build it organically.
How would you do that?
The more content that gets, which travels, and more people that get eyeballs without you paying Google tax and Facebook tax.
How do you do that?
It's viral content. It's around continuously putting out content. It's around creating a community. It's
is
around
that the
answering
key
questions.
then today? To build a brand, is it content and community? Not just for influencer-led brand, but all brands.
I think it is a large part of it, but it is not the only part of it. I think it's a big part of brand building between 20 and 100 crores. Because it's a more, so again, I'll give you an example. For us, we do a lot of our brand building through Men's XP and IDEVA. It doesn't cost us, we own the content platforms. For the 20 to 100 crores, it's the most effective way to do it because you spend 1-2% of your revenue as opposed to 4-5% of your revenue, and you get to the same kind of reach, right? And that is an easier and more cost-effective way of doing it. I think the hard part and the boring part, especially if you're more online, offline also, I think I'm sure you'll have added points. On the online side, knowing how to do growth hacking or performance marketing on Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Google, Facebook, is a core skill between 20 and 100 crores.
Can you tell me what is growth hacking?
Yeah. So in an offline space, your shelf space and your location matters. Yes. Where you're placed matters. In the online world, the first 6 swipes on a mobile phone are the only thing that matter. After that, by the way, your attention span, you never get reach, right? So you search for trousers, right? You find a bunch of trousers, you swipe the phone 6 times. The first 6 pages matter. Now, the first 6 pages you can get to by 2 ways. One is by paying Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Nykaa, etc. a lot of money, which is you pay for it and you get a slot. Right?
How much does it cost?
I think it varies by category, few hundred rupees.
For t-shirt?
For an SKU. So just think about it. A t-shirt sells for, call it $3.99. Right? You may end up paying 30%, 100 rupees for performance marketing and getting a slot. So it's quite expensive to do. So what is growth hacking? How do you get to those spots without paying for it? And how do you do it?
You're saying $100 per click.
See, by the way, the cost per click will be less. The cost per click for an average t-shirt will probably be in the 30-40 range. But you'll need to sort of do performance marketing for a long period of time. You have to stay there for a long period of time, right? And the conversions are not that high. So there's cost per click and there's cost per conversion, right? And there's a long drop between the two. Just
And
because
since you're the platform guy here, give me like 3 specific hacks which can bring down this cost.
Yeah.
For me, who started a new t-shirt brand. today.
Very simple. You have to find out, it's a little bit like what Raj said. You have to find out what each platform values. Myntra values freshness.
Myntra values?
Fresh stock. So new styles coming on all the time. Therefore, if you want to make Myntra your primary platform, you basically have to introduce more frequent drops and you have to get tagged to what's new. So it's an easy hack, right? So you value.
Explain tag to what's new.
Let me give an easier examples because Myntra is the more complicated one. Amazon values consumer reviews and ratings. Yeah. So getting the first 100 reviews and ratings, right, through customers, through friends, through family, all legitimately. There's an Amazon wine program that you can do. All of that actually matters the most for you to be placed on top.
So do you manufacture these ratings?
You don't manufacture them. You actually, by the way, make it happen through, Amazon has a program where basically people give honest reviews, but you can pay Amazon for a review, right? So there's no problem. Whatever the review is, the review is. If the product is good quality, you can actually do it. I'm sure there are lots of ways to do it outside, but I'm saying the legitimate way to do it is Amazon has a wine program, which is very, very cost effective.
Spell wine?
BINE, right? Where you can basically sort of get the first 100 reviews or 100 ratings to
So
get the
I'm
ball
a t-shirt
rolling.
company. I figured out some co-packer who
Yeah.
makes t-shirts.
Yeah.
I want to print something on it.
Yeah.
I printed it.
Yeah.
I go to Amazon.
Yeah.
How
I get
does
it
the
listed.
how does the listing happen? Like, how do you get it listed on Amazon?
Yeah, so I think this is like getting back to very 101.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing is you have to register as a seller,
Okay.
which is a little bit of a process. Amazon is very easy and self-serve.
Very democratic. Yeah.
Flipkart and Myntra are very hard.
So
just
what
because
do
it's not
you
as
need to
self-serve.
register as a seller?
You just need a GST number, a
GST,
company, right? There's nothing that's needed.
So you need a private limited company.
Yeah.
No,
you don't
You
need a
can
private
do
limited company.
proprietorship as well.
Yeah, you can do a proprietorship. Most companies, a lot of companies, sellers are actually proprietorships, by the way.
Proprietorship,
yeah.
So it's very easy on an Amazon, little less easy on Flipkart, harder on Myntra, harder on AJIO. I think in that order,
Why
right?
is
As far
that?
as fashion. Because Amazon is the most self-serve of the lot, which is you don't need to talk to a person in order to make this happen.
Right.
In most other platforms, you have to talk to somebody and that takes time, effort and convincing.
I'm sorry I'm going back a step, but if I have an idea of how a t-shirt should look, how do I find the right manufacturer for it?
So, I mean, there are many ways you can do it.
But how do I find a good one?
Yeah. So there is a list of maybe 50, 100 manufacturers. So firstly, by the way, it depends on your order quantity. I think depending on every size, there are people who can actually manufacture it
And
for
where
you.
do
So
I find
t-shirts,
this
by the
list
way,
of 50?
No, t-shirt is, you go to Tirupur and you walk around and you can get t-shirt manufacturers.
Online, how,
India Mart.
Or you go to
online?
India
Find
Mart
out.
and you can find a manufacturer, right?
The quality is definitely not at par, but you can
No,
get
but you
like
can
a
go
sense
to-
of what you can do.
Yeah. So, Nikhil, by the way, sorry, maybe taking even more of a step back, right? You know, I think brand building requires a little bit of thinking and effort, right? You can't come and suddenly say, so for example, if you want to go start a t-shirt brand, I think it's actually quite difficult to do because you need some level of expertise. You do need to understand something about
Yeah.
t-shirt manufacturing and so on. There has to be something you can't, I mean, it's like meat, right? As opposed to, you know, you can't just do starter, right? I mean, in my
what
mind,
is,
you
how do you
Can I-
inculcate that learning?
Okay, so I was just, can I add something
Yeah,
to
yeah,
this?
please.
How to start a brand thing, because I think I've started a lot of it and failed at it multiple times. So, and I've done this trading, buying from India Mart and selling on Amazon. I've done this like as a side hustle for longest time. Right?
Say that again.
So what I used to do, I used to buy from India Mart and sell it on Amazon. Okay. So there was no brand, nothing. I saw that the mops were growing in India. The 1,000 rupee mop, I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah.
Right? That, I don't know how to explain. Like
The
that's
one
mop.
which sucks up the fluid.
Yeah. Right? So I
And
saw that was
there's
popping.
another bucket where you squeeze it
Exactly.
in.
So you can go on India Mart from Gujarat, you can get somebody to give you that at 200 to 300 rupees. You call it and then you list it on Amazon, you sell it for 1,000 rupees. And then Sara commission cut karke, you get like 100, 150 rupees per.
How much commission does Amazon charge?
So it depends on different categories, but and there's so many, that's Amazon's, I think, the biggest problem. That there's no exact transparency on everything on commission basis. Because there is definite 22% is somewhat which you
I
end
would
up
say,
paying.
by the way, lowest is 15, highest is 35.
Right.
Depending on
But you
what
keep
you're
getting
doing.
that is something which you face problem if you're starting out, and that's
Yeah.
a problem. Right? So I used to do this. I used to sell vegetable choppers. I ended up making 10 lakh rupees as profit of vegetable choppers because I bought a 50 rupees, sold for 400. This I used to do on Amazon. So I'll tell you, in this thing which I learned about how to start a brand, there are two definite questions that you got to ask yourself. First is, what is your strength? Some people's strength might be getting products in cheap. Because जो खरीद सस्ता सकता है वो बेच सस्ता सकता है, right? If you can't buy it in cheap, you can't sell it. So if your strength is not negotiating and buying and have a control over sourcing, you can't do that. So let's say that's not your strength.
Yeah.
Then is your strength building content, community, something like that? Then you do that.
What if my strength is design?
So let's say, yeah, I'm coming to that. Let's say you design, that's a product differentiator. Okay. So now that's your strength.
Yep.
So do you have, I think there are three types of strengths. One is brand building and content. Second is sourcing. And third is unique innovation and design and everything of that.
And the fourth is your ability to, some people have a dramatically better ability to growth hack Amazon, growth hack Flipkart, growth hack.
I was coming to that.
Is that such a big distinction?
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this
I think so.
new world,
In this new
Yes,
world, I
yes,
think it
yes,
is.
for sure.
Right? I think there
Even
is
in the
a big
old world,
differentiation.
if I have
because the shelf
connections.
space, yeah.
No,
Yeah, the entry and the shelf space and the...
yes, exactly. So even in the old world, if I have connections with Big Bazaar or DMart, I can probably like get listed and start selling much faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
So that used to happen.
How does someone build, this I find more interesting than the rest. How does someone build the knowledge of these growth hacks or hire someone who has that knowledge?
I think, can I just take that?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
you can add to it, right? So Amazon is the most straightforward to become more expert on because I think there is lots of case law.
Knowledge available.
Knowledge and availability because you have it, it's happened in the US, it's happened elsewhere. And therefore, by the way, it's easier to learn. And the algorithms are more transparent. You can go read up online. You can figure out what to do. I would say most of the other platforms, Flipkart is almost there as well. I think getting closer and closer to self-serve and Walmart and so on. I think on Myntra, etc., the way I would sort of think about it is, I would actually go talk to ex-Myntra people. The most practical way to do it is to go talk to two category managers. So let's say I want to do t-shirts. Since it seems like your favorite brand to launch, I would go talk to the category manager on t-shirts, right? Or actually I would go talk to them and say, firstly, is there an opportunity for a t-shirt? Is there an opportunity at a certain price point? Is there an opportunity at a certain design? So people are looking for plus sizes, people are looking for oversized, whatever, right? People are looking for pop culture, like what Raj was saying, whatever it is. I would get some insights from one of these guys to narrow this down. In terms of what does it take to growth hack on Myntra, by the way, I'm now finding more and more blogs that are available and so on. I don't know if you guys have searched for it, but it's quite interesting. People talk about Myntra being a visibility-led platform. So there are two types of platforms. One is you go search for something and you get to a product. The other is you go browse for something and you get inspired to a product. So that's visibility-led. The other is search-led. Amazon is search-led. Myntra and Ajio are visibility-led. There, the real thing to understand is what are all the visibility triggers. So you go look for filters. What's new? What's hot? Price low to high, right? Size, right? So you go keep looking for what is it that the platform looks for. It's no different than his idea on Google and Facebook, on Insta. Insta wants to do reels, therefore he does reels. Myntra wants to sell what's new, and therefore you figure out how to hack that way into it, right? So that's how you go find out. I think the easiest is there are now some online resources, but talking to a few ex-people is the most practical way to get started.
Can I add a layer on there? The other most important, so these are the skills that you can develop on Go and you can talk to these people and you can do it. The second most important question you should ask yourself is, where is my ideal customer spending time? Okay, so I'll give you an example of a pizza company that did crazy, really, really well in this. This was in US. So they found out that their ideal TG is spending a lot of time on multiple platforms. One of them needs to be dating sites, dating apps, right? So let's say pick up a Tinder or a Bumble or something like that. They started showing ads there. And they were like, if she gives you number faster than we deliver our pizza, you get 30% off. Now that's a growth hack.
Yeah.
This is what growth hack means. So you need to ask yourself a question. Now imagine that's a massive technique, because a lot of people would do it just to satisfy their ego, not because of that.
And correct.
You need to ask yourself, where are your people spending time, and need to find out underpriced attention in that. Because if you can't find underpriced attention, there's very hard to sell a very, very, difficult product or as basic product as t-shirt. And now coming to starting point where you asked me, how, if you want to start a t-shirt company, how would you do it? So here's I ask a question myself. If I don't have a differentiated product, I try to think of if I don't have a unique selling proposition, I ask myself, do I have a unique show-off proposition? Because you can show off proposition. Because if you can build a show-off brand-worthy brand, you can do it. Let's say I have none of this. I don't know how to show off because design comes in the show-off play. You're a great designer. You can build something that people will show off. If, let's say I don't have any of this, I always ask myself question, what's pre and post? Because, so this goes with my most FMCG, like, not clothing, like not fashion, I would like personal grooming and stuff like that, right? So if there's a shampoo market which is popping in India, I don't want to launch another shampoo. I would ask myself a question, what can I do to sell somebody who's using shampoo after shampoo? Post product or a pre-product? Or before shampoo, what they can do?
Yeah.
Or post shampoo, what they can do? Because that's how I get an entry to somebody who uses exactly my thing. And once I get an entry, automatically I'll start selling my other products as well.
Yeah, and by the way, the way we the way I would sort of do it, just building a little bit, Raj, on that is, pre-post is one. I think literally, by the way, again, I go back to the very basic thing. Amazon, actually, you can go and find out long tail key search words.
Yeah.
You can find out where there is null sets. You can say, by the way, in the last month, what are the search results that led to 0? And you find all of them. And you stack rank them by volume. And then you say, that's what I want to go do. I'm saying this, I think, unfortunately, so since this is a podcast where people want to, I think there's so much of data out there. If you actually make a little bit of effort, you can actually make dramatically better judgment calls than 90% of the population, right? And this growth hacking applies to Google and Facebook the most. So if you start D2C, right? The real question there is, how do you not pay as much Google and Facebook tax? And there's an entire science behind it, right? How do you actually think about SEO? How do you think about the structure of your website? How do you think about what keywords to bid on? How do you?
But that's beyond, you're saying 25 to 100, the next phase.
That's the 20 to 100. So 0 to 20, I know we had a slight difference, but not dramatic. But my sense is great product, initial brand value proposition, 80% marketplace, 20% D2C. 20 to 100 crores. By the way, continue to crack something that's unique. It can be, I think, to Raj's point, it can be sourcing, it can be design, it can be whatever. And crack performance marketing. Whether it's Google, Facebook, Amazon, content, whatever it is. Build something around it. 100 and above to 500, you have to figure out how to make offline work. Which is a different skill set for a lot of people who have started it this way. You have to figure out and really make sure that the product goes from push to pull. What do I mean by push to pull? What is the percentage of organic sales versus what is the percentage of adrenaline sales, which is performance marketing? That percent from 20 to 100, maybe call it 50-50 performance and organic. 100 plus, that performance-based sales should come down to 30%. Because if it doesn't, 30-40%, it doesn't, it just, the cost of it keeps going up and up and up and up and up, right? In the Amazons of the world.
The one interesting thing how you can build a brand is also that used to happen in offline. At least you look at categories which are super unorganized and what is getting organized. So for example, Atta. So I read, this was again 2013-14, I read that 94% India still buys Chakki Atta. That was 2013. Okay. So I was like, okay, because 94% is still unorganized, the way it's like not, it's just going away from cities, probably there's going to be a time where this won't happen. And that's why there's an opportunity to build, let's say, an Atta brand.
Makes sense. Any opportunity you're seeing now?
Unorganized to organized?
Happening right now?
I think toilet specifically I see as an opportunity.
Give me an example.
Like
cleaners and so on?
Toilet cleaners, pre-sprays, post-sprays, seat sprays. I don't know what product. I've not spent enough time.
Sirona is doing a lot of this. Be safe.
Yeah.
I've not spent enough time to understand what products, but I think toilet as a category is popping up because a lot of people now just don't want their house to smell good, but also their toilets to smell good.
I think pets is the other big one in my mind. It's immediate and people are spending.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, look.
There's one new store which has opened here, which is huge.
Heads Up for Tails.
Yeah,
Heads Up for Tails. So I think pets is interesting. I mean, everybody's heard of Dinks. Apparently there's something called
What is this?
dual income, no kids. right? My daughter was explaining now this to me, saying there's dinkwad, there's double income, no kid with a dog.
That's me.
Right?
No,
I didn't
not
even
double
know.
income yet, but
But I didn't even know.
Second income is in Indore.
Second income is in Indore. So this population is growing. And they spend on the dog or the cat as much as they spend on their baby, right? I mean, or child. But I think this is an interesting space. There's a market, and I think it's going to explode. Right?
Singapore.
Yeah, that's like very
Singapore.
small market, yeah.
Singapore, but I think the Singapore will spend.
We were talking about naming a brand in between for a second.
Yeah.
How does one figure out what to name a brand? Let's stick to the t-shirt example. What should I name this brand I'm starting? Let's say I have managed to get 10 lakh rupees. I'm starting a t-shirt brand. I need to figure out the name first. How do I go about naming my brand?
So I'll tell you a colleague of mine who is a brand authority in a way, and his daughter started a brand, and she started exactly with a t-shirt, and she named the brand Creatures of Habit. In the first instance, I didn't understand much, and it was a D2C brand, and I think they are now profitable.
What worked?
I think the brand, the product.
No, but the name worked for a particular reason, Creatures of Habit.
I think the D2C world is accepting a little bit of a odd name.
Story.
A story. It's telling a story.
Yeah. By the way, new research there is, just adding to this, 9 out of 10 Gen Zs believe in advertising.
Yeah.
Maybe different ways, different sorts. But if you tell them that you're advertising, people are receptive to see that advertise and buy something on that. There's no level of mistrust.
So you can name your brand anything. You can name your brand Nikhil also. I think and we can create a story around the word Nikhil.
And that's what I was going to
But
say.
if the word inherently has a story in the word, is it a...
It helps. It helps.
Of course it helps, right? I mean, if you have Tesla and you're running an electric car company, I mean, it helps, right? So I think...
Can you just come up with a name for a t-shirt company which has a story in the name?
Can I add? Like, I wouldn't choose any name which is popular. I would choose a name which is easily available on SEO. And
Correct. That's what I was also going to say.
I would come up with something which has no meaning.
Yeah.
Because if you choose a word which has meaning, then you're fighting against something already.
So would you say something which doesn't have a meaning truly, but sounds like it means a certain thing?
And it sounds like something, it sounds interesting.
So I'll give you an example of our brand recently we named Blanco. It's a perfume brand.
Yeah.
Okay. So we named it Blanco because King, in his day-to-day lingo in language, he uses Blanco as a substitute for winning lifestyle and confidence. So he has given meaning to it.
Blanco like white.
Blanco it has no meaning. But Blanco is equal to
Blanco sounds like a
confidence in
very
winning.
French way to say white.
It could be. So
it just means confidence in winning. So he's giving a meaning to the name which has no meaning. And then it catches up on the story.
Nikhil, my nephew started a brand on gut health. And they were working, the whole insight was there are good bacteria and there is bad bacteria. So how should you, and we want to attack that good bacteria has to be more to kill the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
So we worked on along with them and we called the brand the Good Bug. And it caught on quite well. Had the brand not been the Good Bug, I think the story would have been different.
Yeah.
That's a good name actually.
Yeah, that's a good name.
So everybody liked the name. So
No, but, or peanut butter, right? Call it My Fitness.
My Fitness. That's a great name.
It's a great name.
But doesn't that get lost, My Fitness?
No, actually, by the way, trademark is available, which is why it was done. But My Fitness is extendable, right? And basically, you have to take a brand positioning. You can either say mother giving the child healthy things, which is one positioning. The other is you're an athlete or a gym goer who needs protein, in which case My Fitness is a perfect fit. Both
Is
are
there
use
another
cases.
trend that anything food where you add fitness is just selling more today?
no,
I don't think so.
nothing like that.
I don't think so. I mean, this case on peanut butter, it was a good name, but I think
peanut butter, it was exactly the time where it was just happening.
yeah.
And
Correct,
we
correct,
in
correct.
Food Hall created a machine and where we were selling, people could take out the peanut
I've
butter.
seen that.
Yeah.
You can take
So
any
it
nut
just
butter,
started,
right?
yeah.
Correct. But it's really taken off now. I mean, as a trend, it's really become
Food Hall
scalable.
is crazy. I just want to, because you named Food Hall, I want to give you an insight on what I saw. So what I did, there was raspberries just put there. Okay, I'm talking about, I think, Santa Cruz wala Food Hall, right?
Yeah.
So the raspberries, right? So it was, let's say, priced at, for example, 1,000.
Yep.
There was right next to it, I think, thoda aage jaake, there was like Brazilian raspberries or something. Like there was some country's name in it.
Right.
Same, and that was like 2000 something. That was expensive. I don't exactly know the price, but there was just this one country name. I kept it, both of them together. 10. I just stood there to see like what happens. The 2001 got finished like quicker than the 1,000 rupee one.
Is
So
that a
food
thing?
hall as a market, like people, if you add a story to it, that it's Brazilian or Portuguese or something, people buy. Like, is that true or like?
The origins matter.
Origins
Also
matter.
outside of
It was very crazy to me just to write an origin and it will fly faster
Yeah, yeah.
than the 1,000 rupee one because the price was crazy.
If the price is higher, do people automatically assume higher quality?
Yes, within a band.
Explain.
So, for example, if you basically say, you guys. have
No,
a
no,
different-
no. I think that's true what you're saying. Like, just go
No,
ahead.
I see. Look, I mean, let me give you the MyFitness example. We charge more than our competitors who are in the same sort of space, right? I don't know, Happy Low, X, Y, Z, right? Whatever. We charge more. We charge by 20% more. The minute you get to 50% more, there is actually a basket cost. See, because by the way, 500 grams
what is
lasts for
basket? What is basket?
See, basically, if you want to buy something, right? You have some amount that you spend on grocery, right?
Can't you buy that bag that they give you and put everything in it?
No,
you
no,
don't
no,
need a
no.
basket.
Just hear me out. So, there is a certain amount of money I want to spend, right? It can be at a premium, but it can't break the bank. So, for example, if I'm spending 1,000 rupees on 500 grams of peanut butter, suddenly you start to think a little differently. But if I'm spending 200 rupees more, there is a break point, right? So, I don't know if that's making sense, right? So, there's a band for every one of these. Within that band, I think premium, people think it is actually you're charging a little bit more. The packaging makes a difference. All of that makes a difference. But I don't know, maybe Kishore, you can comment on it. But if you charge 5 times for a utilitarian thing, then I think it gets to be tough.
I have to say, like digressing here, my favorite kind of shopping is supermarkets.
Yeah.
There is the only kind of shopping I'd go do in person.
Yeah.
There is something so therapeutic about being in a supermarket, picking up all these random boxes which have like weird colors on them. So they've got something in the physical shopping bang on. I don't know how much research has gone into it.
A lot of research.
lot of research.
Lot of
Yeah,
research.
yeah,
So
suspect,
there are codes for every category. So you'll find similar color codes for a particular category. So every category is thought in a particular way, and if you move away from that code, it just doesn't sell. The consumers get used to a certain, like if you look at the toothpaste, you will find the red and white as a color code. If you move away from that, it becomes difficult. Yeah. So packaging, design, how the mind works. I think so much of research has gone into building a brand, packaging, design, everything.
So you guys said health, if you necessarily add into every product, is not selling more.
It doesn't mean that exactly.
But the odds of it selling more go up.
Maybe
If you
for
add a health angle.
maybe for a while. I think something which has not been discussed also is whatever you create, what is the longevity of that?
Yeah.
And what does brand mean? Brand means you are getting, instead of a commodity of X rupees a kilo, you are getting X plus
You're getting a
20%,
multiple.
30%,
Correct.
something. That's what the
Correct.
brand is all about. And you have to position the brand in a way that you keep on getting that premium. Until when you will be able to get that premium. So as a peanut butter, now how is he building the brand that it will have that longevity to get that premium?
That's right.
Throughout the year, throughout the lifetime.
Yeah.
I think that's where the brand will stand out. Yeah.
And I think, by the way, sorry.
Yeah.
Just to maybe just complete that, I think the longevity point I really think is important because I think brands get built up over decades.
No, but if you build on growth hacking, how will the brand longevity happen?
I think there are two different things, Kishore. I think there is a distribution and how do you optimize the distribution?
Fair enough.
Right? It's like getting the right mall space. Right? You in your
agree.
days you would get the mall space. I think that's a different problem than building brand, building product, and so on, which is absolutely important for me to do. So I'm saying growth hacking is the new way of getting a great space in a mall, right? The analogy, right? I think here on brand building, I think this consistency point is important. You have to be known for something that compounds over time, right? It can be taste, it can be. So, for example, in the peanut butter, right? I think there is usually oil separation that happens because it's emulsified. So we have done an emulsification, which is make sure that it still separates, but it doesn't feel like oil. So when you take it and taste it, when you open it, it just is nicer. It can be small thing, right? It can be a large thing, but you need something that differentiates this and it's consistent over time. Or if you have a fashion brand, right? You need some design direction that may change, but the ethos is still consistent over a long period of time, right? Because I think it takes compounding to build a brand, right? And my point is they are not at odds with growth hacking. My point is growth hacking is distribution for me,
Fair
cheap
enough.
distribution, right?
So like two brands which comes to my mind in the new digital world, or one was Kamath, which was built around onion as an ingredient.
Was it?
Yeah, onion oil was the
Ingredient and through which now they have extended the brand to many products and categories, but
Why did onion oil work for them?
I think people had memories about onion oil being healthy for the hair.
But nobody had.
Nobody had thought about it, and they came into that market. And there was another brand which was built around coffee,
Which is?
M-caffeine.
M-caffeine. Yeah.
Do you know of any other things like onion oil which have not
We
been
are
utilized?
just my son-in-law is launching a brand called in beauty space, which is a milk as a base, dairy as a base, the science of milk. And milk again has been a lot of connotation around beauty, but Dove uses milk. They uses milk as a insignia. They use it in the packaging, but they don't use milk in the product, but they use it in the packaging.
Right.
So milk has a lot of connotation in Indian culture.
So you're saying pick something from, I think Ayurveda many people have
But everything old in new
overdone.
form
Yeah.
is coming in.
See, I think there are two ways to sort of play the beauty game, right? I think there is a Ayurveda versus science
Do you
axis,
think the
right?
Ayurveda market has been overdone? I can see Kama and Forest Essentials as the leaders in that premium and Patanjali at the bottom.
I think there is still, I think beauty as a market is still so underpenetrated. There's room for many, many brands. I do think you need some real differentiation, however.
What could
I think
be a
just
differentiation?
putting Ayurveda doesn't mean anything, right? I think you need efficacy and you need to actually build a little bit of
Why
real
doesn't
research.
anybody describe efficacy, or why does somebody not compare product A to B based on efficacy?
So firstly, by the way, I do think people do more. So at least when I was growing up, I don't think I ever looked at the back of a bottle on what the ingredients are. My kids today, by the way, look through every ingredient, yeah, and then whether it's cruelty-free, paraben-free, these are things that don't register. But I think the next generation actually does look at this and does look at the ingredients. So firstly, I think that is changing. I think except for maybe Raj,
Is that
the
a
rest of the
factor of
TG,
affluence, or is that India one largely?
India one.
India one for sure, but I also think it's awareness.
So that
Yeah,
120 million people will care about these things.
Very much.
Very much. And the 120 care more about it now because there is more information available online and content and so on. So I think there are people talking about it, so there's more awareness.
So we did.
Can I add on this?
Yeah.
So every time you're going to build a brand which is in a cluttered category, you can either build it by aspiration or education. So you can either aspire people for your products to buy them, like your product significantly better value, or you can educate them about the efficacy and the stuff that you were talking about. So for example, Minimalist did the exact same thing. Minimalist came here, started educating people on certain ingredients, certain things which were always there, but nobody talked about it so honestly and transparently.
Right.
And that's what works. So either you educate people or you aspire people to do and build your brand in a certain way.
Especially in a cluttered category, right?
It's cluttered category. That's what I'm talking about. Like when you do basic product,
then it's not.
you need to be, because, and this works by the way, even in tier 2, tier 3 in villages as well. You educate them on certain things, they buy. So it just works.
So we did health kind of helps, but not necessarily the only factor in determining which product you would pick.
Yeah.
What about, and we said breaking down the ingredients, using what is not harmful, matters to the 120 million people in India one. What about sustainability and climate change? I see, like, whenever I look at a pitch from a consumer facing brand, everybody by default has health, sustainability. These things are very generic in common.
Clean beauty.
Clean beauty.
So if everybody is doing them, is there any value left in them? I think it should be done. But is it a sales point in the manner that people are selling it?
So there are 3 phases of any beauty brand or FMCG. This I'm only learning from Korea because Korea has been
Is ahead of it. Yeah.
ahead of it, right? So there were 3 phases. First 10 years, beauty. Okay, just like beauty products, they will come with a certain level of value. You buy it, function, and you go ahead. Second was performance. So performative beauty, how they call it, functional beauty, how they call it. They spot on say, this product will make your acne disappear. This
Functional,
product
solves the problem.
Very solve. Okay. And then third level comes with the clean beauty. Okay. Because so I don't think India mein performative beauty is being deployed so well. So clean beauty tak this is my view. I think we are far from that.
But I'm
If
telling you,
wanna
I've
make it
looked
like a
at
massy brand.
100 pitches from brands in food and beauty.
Yeah.
And 95 of them have sustainability written in their pitch deck somewhere.
Yeah. So I think a little bit of
It's
this
like
is
It's like
how-
very small,
It's
I
like
believe,
how
like it's not-
my
AI
sense
was
is-
in tech in the last 5 years.
but
Everybody
Nikhil,
had to put it on a pitch
But
deck.
I think it's a pitch deck thing. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a differentiation
real
thing,
thing.
right? In my view, I mean, the real question is, will somebody pay a premium for it? I think the answer will be
Yeah.
almost
Same
none.
thing
If I were
happened
to
with
take-
organic also in a way.
Yeah. Correct. I'm saying, will somebody pay a premium for it because it costs more to get to be sustainable? The answer is almost always no.
Yeah.
If the answer to that is no, there's no economic model. So I think, should one do it and be responsible? The answer is yes. Is it a selling factor for a customer to be able to pay more? My current sense is no.
Kishore, would you like to go with the insights, like some of them from what we are discussing?
I think when we started understanding the new age consumers who are digital first consumers,
Yeah.
and we looked at their color of pursuit, the new lifestyles, and we found something very interesting. We found a group of a lot of women coming together and getting into, especially in restaurants, you can see them, bunch of them together.
Yeah.
Not the evening time, not in morning time you used to see them. I think it's happening because of a lot of free time, and people want to go out and experience a lot of new things. And I think and getting that freedom to go out. Then there is a chemical know-it-all, like we were mentioning. Your child wants to read everything behind. So there are a lot of consumers now who wants to live, read everything, what's written on the back of the pack, and they are very conscious about the ingredients getting used. Another community we are looking at is gated communities, people who live in the gated apartments.
Like Ananth.
And yeah,
And Nikhil.
he must be the Belandur community, I don't know.
No, he lives here.
Okay.
They're
So
neighbors.
this is another community.
Yeah.
So I think the community, and I think they have a lot of common interests. They play a lot together. They're seeing the travel.
We try and play a lot together too. But
And another huge, another lifestyle which is X-free life. I don't want gluten. I don't want this. I want this. Well, I think there are so many no's in the preferences of.
So in a way, are you saying India is now so broad and diversified that instead of saying we will build for even India A, which is 120 million people, you need to break it down to micro niches and build specifically for them? Like I need to build
You can build a brand around that, and then it can expand to because ultimately you have to enter a category.
Is that how a brand should be built? 0 to 1, identifying a micro niche, not going too broad?
You can't go broad.
I think
Very
so.
difficult to build.
Fully agree. The shark in a pond
Very
analogy.
difficult to build.
You have to be niche.
You have to become the big fish in a pond first.
Yes.
Yeah, and then enter in somewhere like how Mamaearth entered in, and now they have expanded into many categories.
Would that also mean for categories which are really large with ITC and HUL and Marico and all these companies, there's no point wasting time to try and compete with them?
I think they know that they have a very strong balance sheet, and ultimately every brand which is getting built, which will be successful, will be bought over by them because they will take it to that next 200 to 1,000 crores.
for sure.
So no point building there.
No, they have the distribution, they have the reach.
Yeah,
They
I
can
think
touch,
directly competing with one of their products without some differentiation, I think there's no point.
and
Because
they
there's
don't
such
allow
massive
you.
reach.
They don't allow you. In our earlier avatar, we had a brand called Tasty Treat, which was into biscuits, and we garnered quite a substantial market share. In Bourbon, we captured 3%. In wafer biscuit, we captured 25%. But the amount of cases they came after us on everything.
By cases, what do you mean?
Your brand is identical, similar. They'll find something or the other.
Right.
They will not let you survive. They believe that that shelf space and the mind space belongs to them, and it belongs to nobody.
Right.
And they will not let anybody come into that.
And when they buy you, do they buy you at a premium?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think all the recent D2C purchases have been at a premium.
But I think the odds of succeeding there are so low that you should not attempt it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think. Look,
I think it's not bad.
Yeah.
And because they can't do that innovation, they can't build it. And secondly, you have to start somewhere in a niche.
Right.
Not that HUL has not attempted. They went in. They attempted something like a Good Life, long name. I think it didn't work.
Yeah. So I think the niche thing is because can you compete? So I think the only counter to that is my sense, and I think even that is changing quite rapidly. If you asked me 3-4 years ago, I would say most of the big players were not digitally very good. So you could actually still create some scale online and then figure out a way to see if that was enough. I don't think that's true anymore. I think all of them are now quite good digitally. And so I would certainly not go head-to-head competition, especially if you're starting.
Right. Would you like to go with another insight? Kishore is the OG. He can give us hundreds in a line.
No, there is I would say
sure.
somebody has to start a brand around something. I would rather do it for gamers and gamblers. There's not a single brand for them, and they are huge in numbers.
Right.
What do you
like a
mean
gaming
by that,
company?
gamers?
People who game a lot,
Okay.
and people who
Chair
went
for
into
them, keyboards for them,
whatever. No, maybe some brand around that.
brand around them as well.
You will be subconsciously talking to them in a particular way, and they will relate to you. Midnight scrollers. That's a huge community again.
Like nootropics, stuff like that. Which
Not
keeps
that product. I think they are a group of people
he's
who
looking
have
for a
common.
community.
They are a community by themselves.
They're a community, and can you build a product for the community? So you're not talking about utilitarian stuff
It's
for them. You're talking about positioning.
Positioning.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
positioning.
Interesting. I think it's an
That's the
interesting.
way of hitting a micro niche.
Yeah. It's a micro niche.
Right. Another insight?
Wow. This is good.
No, we want. My daughter wanted to get into something around children. So we thought of getting into through a furniture brand, building not a furniture brand, but getting into furniture as a category.
Yeah.
But then she thought of a name that how can we design it around the child and how you can work around the well-being of the child and the imagination of the child and child's growth. So we called the brand Smartsters. We entered through a category which is very niche, study tables. India has 2.5 crore babies produced, and even 12% of that is 30 lakhs in the community which we want to make them spend money on.
Right.
Then into beds. We can getting into toys. It's smart around childhood.
But like if I slept on a Smartster's bed from when I was 5 to 15, when I'm 22 and making a shopping decision, will I remember Smartster?
You will not. But you're not. But we are catering to that audience only.
See, there's enough of a replacement market. I think children's market. I mean, it's for some reason there are not many large brands. And
There's not a single brand.
Yeah. And so I think there's a huge opportunity in children's clothes, children's accessories.
So this brand now can be extended into clothing also, but very limited line of clothing which talks educational messages.
Okay, another very intrinsic to the conversation question I had. How important is it to have many SKUs if you're starting a new brand in fashion, clothing, cosmetics?
It's a great question.
Or is it better to start a brand with fewer SKUs? And
I think
focus
depends on the
those
category you're getting in.
Let's talk about fashion.
Fashion I would say if you are doing a D2C, not more than 60, 70 options to start with.
And that's across sizes.
Yeah.
Sizes are separate options.
So 60, 70 options in full size sets. I would agree with that. I think the only
sizes are separate.
No, sizes are separate.
No, so
the total number of SKUs will be large.
Large, right? So 60 times a size set, which is 32 to whatever, right? So
very difficult to manage otherwise.
And is the way to build these? Is the way to build these brands? You create a bunch of inventory and keep it, so you're able to fulfill.
I believe that I come from a physical world, and the digital world is very different in fashion. And I believe digital brand in fashion has to do X number of stock tons. Otherwise, there's no sense.
Yeah.
At least their stock ton has to be in excess of 7-8%, 7-8 times.
So
minimum.
What is a stock ton?
In the stock ton is what stock you are holding and how much you are able to rotate it, how fast.
How much? It's working capital management, Nikhil, right? So I, by the way, fully agree. I think, firstly, the only tweak I have is, in general, online values width more than depth. The reason is purely algorithmic. What happens is you have 600,000 SKUs in a Myntra. Number of SKUs that are tagged to a same brand name is one weightage in an algorithm that basically then says you're a large brand and therefore you get automatically more visibility, right? So width is valued more than depth because you have no shelf space limitation in the online world. Therefore, by definition, when you're doing it online versus offline, you need more options, right? I 100% agree, I think, with Kishore. I think in online, I'm going back a little bit to my McKinsey sort of days, right? It is important to think about what I call design for fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Right? And what I mean by that is, by the way, a standard lead time for making a product, maybe 60, 90 days. But we don't operate like that. So the question is, what can you standardize, right? So can you keep the same fabric and can you customize it, right? Can you sort of dye the fabric different colors but keep the base fabric, gray fabric the same? So I think quick turnarounds, which is I think Kishore's point, and thinking about a manufacturing back-end supply chain that works with width is really critical. Incidentally, by the way, I think it's equally critical for beauty.
Can you start a beauty brand with 60, 70 SKUs? If I
You need much fewer. You need much less, right?
Like 5 SKUs, 10 SKUs?
Yeah, so 10 SKUs, you're fine. Right?
I said 60 options, not SKUs. So that's a lot.
So what is the difference between
60 designs?
In all sizes?
Yeah.
Stock keeping unit versus a
Right.
option. Yeah. But I think it's, I think this width versus depth is, I think, one of the most different, interesting things.
Yeah, totally in a digital world.
In the digital versus the, and I think this is an interesting growth hack. If you can figure out a back-end system that can churn out fast, number of options that get cataloged very quickly, you can sort of build on generative AI so that cataloging becomes faster. Then you have another sustainable advantage, right? To figuring out how do you actually win in this.
What is the role of AI in all this? Tomorrow, will there be a time where I go online, I think of what kind of t-shirt I want, or what kind of cosmetic product I want. AI generates it for me right away and ships it to me?
So I think there is I'm sorry to sound more mundane and boring, but I think there is real value in data science and machine learning in the business operations of fashion. So I just want to take a minute to do it. I think I'll come to the most extreme example. We did some of that experimentation, but I think it's more an experiment in the Myntra world, right? But I'll tell you what the most difficult problem in fashion is. It's actually demand forecasting. At some level, how much inventory to make, what to make, etc., and have that ready. I think if you use machine learning and data sciences algorithms, we're using it now, you are able to forecast with better accuracy, right?
What are the factors? What are the moving parts?
So the biggest thing is the same SKU, right? Option SKU doesn't repeat. What a machine learning algorithm is able to figure out is what you call a clustering. One black dress is similar to another black dress, which is similar to another black dress. Therefore, I use the history of the previous data to predict what a new option is going to do. If you can get that algorithm right, then your ability to forecast accurately becomes much better. And if you have more and more data, which you do in an online world, you're able to do it dramatically better. I'll give you another interesting example. If you take pricing, when you discount a product when the inventory keeps going down, and what do you price it at, actually is a very difficult problem to do, and most people do it unscientifically. You can change your price.
It can be converted into a science.
It's fully, we have converted it, right? So for example, for us, one of the big tech products that we build is pricing. It's data science-led pricing. Again, you have a volume price elasticity curve for every SKU. It doesn't matter whether it's a fashion SKU or my fitness SKU, etc. for the algorithm, right?
How relevant or cardinal is delivery time? Say we're talking about platforms, right?
Yes.
If you can bring manufacturing time down to say 24 hours, will you eventually get to a world where you don't need to have any inventory? Somebody orders, you manufacture and ship?
Nikhil, when 3D manufacturing came about, we thought supermarkets will be over. There'll be 3D manufacturing machine. You go there and produce whatever you want and take it home. But it didn't work. It didn't happen.
But supermarket is wide in terms of raw ingredients.
But a lot of products could have been made. Your spectacle, a lot of things could have been made.
I think so.
Maybe the raw material was the monopoly or something was there. Otherwise, 3D manufacturing would have...
could have solved almost every product.
Especially for fashion, it seems to make sense, right?
Lot of things, I would say.
Because fashion...
There's a lot of home goods.
No, what you're saying fashion, you're saying no inventory or 3D manufacturing. So I think it's a very difficult... it's theoretically possible. Theoretically anything is possible. But I would say, I think it's a little bit far away. In my view, I think, is it possible to use machine learning to reduce inventory and reduce wastage? The answer is absolutely. And I think it's differentiated enough that if you build this as a real capability, you get 2, 3, 4 percentage points more in EBITDA. That I think makes or profits, that makes a big difference.
I saw some devices. I think the reason I buy a lot of things offline, not online, especially shoes, like my running shoes, which I wear in the gym, for example, is you have to touch them and feel them.
Yes.
Is there a solution to that problem ever?
No. I think material surfaces, there has been some development.
Yes.
but not there yet.
Yeah.
But it might come about. But the sense of touch and that emotion and the feel which you go through, still long.
So you're saying for those categories, don't even attempt to build online businesses?
It might change to a certain extent.
No, I
Material surfaces, at least, I believe there will be something which will come about.
I think there will be. I mean, my read, by the way, is look in shoes. I think there's touch, feel, and size. Size, by the way, today you go on Myntra, there is a size finder for you. It turns on the camera of your phone, there's 3D, and you get the size. You still don't get the touch and feel, but you solve a third of the problem.
But let me get more specific.
Yeah.
Like, we have an investment in a common friends company called Vedu, Main Street Marketplace, high-end sneakers. Do you think if I'm buying a shoe for 800 rupees or 1000 rupees, I would be okay with punting online? But if I'm buying a shoe for 10, 20,000 rupees, I would never shop online?
No, it's not true.
You would?
I would still shop online. I think, by the way,
I buy online.
You would buy online.
Yeah.
I think what is different though is the level of trust in the person who sells it needs to be, and the brand needs to be dramatically higher, right? It is true that beyond 5,000, the volumes drop precipitously.
And you would have used the brand once.
And you would have used the brand once.
What if I've not used? We're talking about people who are building a new brand. Are we saying that if you're going 0 to 1 in a new brand, say for example, if you want to build a sneakers price more than 20,000 rupees
Go offline.
Online,
Very difficult.
Very difficult online.
don't attempt it?
I won't buy.
I would not do it. I mean, I would
Very
not do
difficult.
it. You go offline. I mean, in that case, then I think that's the right.
But I think people will take, they have some inquiry, they'll take it to their homes. One can do that.
But here's what you can solve, right? If you see genuine user testimonials, then also you might buy online.
Yeah.
So for example,
But does anyone believe that anymore? Because everybody's...
I think people do believe it.
people do.
See, reviews and ratings, people believe. I think they obviously do a little bit of research.
But you're
and so
saying
on.
you can buy from Amazon?
No, I'm not saying you can buy. By the way, just again, sorry, just to be very clear so that people don't get the wrong views, since a lot of people hopefully see this podcast. I don't think it is okay to get fake reviews, just to be very clear. I do think it is okay to solicit reviews which are honest reviews, right?
Right.
You know, it can be a bad review, by the way.
You're
It can be a
talking about
1 star.
that. Amazon will send you an email saying, can you review this?
That's right. So I'm not for a minute talking about getting reviews randomly. I'm saying, by the way, do it in an actual manner. Hopefully your product is also a good one. So people will give you a good review then. Right?
Another big thing, online shopping, they say 20 to 30% are fakes. If you can't trust a platform to curate fakes,
Can I tell you the core of what the problem is? It's actually a very nuanced problem. This is from my Myntra days, right? 30+% of products in fashion get returned. Okay? The return goes to a warehouse. There is a warehouse guy who cannot understand the difference between one Nike and another Nike. Let's say the customer returns a different Nike to you. There is a chance that it can go into the
Yeah.
Really?
inventory. It happens.
is that how most
Yeah,
fakes
yeah.
come about online?
Of course.
There are scamsters who have been created out of this new
Yeah, so
So
economy.
people are buying correct shoes and then
They return a fake shoe and they keep.
Is it that hard for Amazon to imprint a barcode
But
or
it's
some
a-
kind of...
I think everything by the way can be solved, and everything by the way keeps people find new ways around it, right? So for example, we used to sell ethnic wear in Myntra. I think one of the things we did in ethnic wear is put a tag that is really, really difficult to take off, because what people would do is buy ethnic wear. You know, you would then go for a wedding, go for the occasion, and then return it, right? Because you have a 15-day or a 30-day return policy, right?
So should we say here that there are so many savvy scamsters out there? If you're building a brand 0 to 1 in cosmetics, fashion, shoes, whatever, be really careful with forming a returns policy because you will likely get scammed.
So
Not at all,
even
I
if-
think, Nikhil. It's
tell
very
you-
small, by the way. Sorry.
I was just saying that in fashion specifically, necessarily these are not scamsters. A large majority of people just believe in buying 3 options,
No.
trying one of them, and then returning
No,
all
we are not
3 of
talking
them.
about that.
No,
We are
I
talking
think
of
we're
people
talking about
who-
two
or just
different
scams.
things.
Yeah, two different
No,
things,
but
yeah.
my sense, by the way, is firstly, if you're starting a new brand, unless it's a very high-end brand, I would not worry about doing fakes and returns. The reason is you're not a Nike. The reason, by the way, they're doing some of that is because it's a Nike shoe.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if it's brand X or brand Y, they're not going to do it. So I would not worry. However, can I just reframe it? I think you should worry about fit and return percentages if you are in fashion.
What is the fit in return?
So in fashion, in beauty, and everywhere in e-commerce, there are returns. It's the nature, it's a shopping feature because you don't touch and see. returns actually can change the economics of a business. Because if you have 30%, 35% coming back, you pay for the reverse logistics, the inventory gets stuck, etc. So as you think about launching a new product, getting your fit right and communicating that fit through an image is again a very important thing, because otherwise what happens is you launch a product and you find that it's sold very well. Month 2, by the way, 50% comes back. You have a real problem. So I think getting the fit right is important.
So next we'll go into Raj's insights
Got it.
from building brands around influencers. Unfortunately, we missed the boat and we only got 1% or something in this brilliant company he's building.
Yeah.
And now he's raising a round which is 3 times as big as the last one. So we can't afford it anyway. But maybe you tell us some insights around the influencer piece and how to build brands around content and distribution, which is individualistic in nature.
So I'll tell you, I don't think वैसे brand building is different in offline world or a digital first or a social world. Brand building fundamentals are same.
Okay.
I just feel that every time a new generation of buyers come, there's a layer to be added.
Yeah.
So the first set of brands were built on function. Okay. The second set of brands were built on emotion. Now, so function plus emotion, right? Now I think the brands are going to be built on function, emotion, and community. So that's what we were talking about. So that's the basic insight of what we're trying to do.
Right.
So to give it more to simplify it better, like my product needs to be better than all the other products or has to be some distinctive value. It has to stand for certain level of emotion. For example, let's say Red Bull is adventure. Okay, so that's an emotion that you appeal to an emotion. So is your brand becoming an emotion? Right? I keep giving Red Bull example because it's the most common one.
Yeah.
And then I think the third layer which is getting added is the attention and the community part. So if you don't have the community of people who are technically acting as evangelists for you, it gets very difficult beyond a point to build a brand and to scale it. So that's like to mix all of these three. That's where the influencer comes in picture. So we as a company, we crack function and emotion for a product. And then we take on influencers' attention and community building ability and their community to mix all of these three things together. So that's how I think the brands of the future are going to be built. It's already happening around US where Prime Drinks we saw.
Yeah.
You guys know Prime Drinks, right?
Yeah.
In a year, $250 million sales.
Yeah.
Then same thing happened with Mr. Beast Feastables, which is now I think declining a bit.
Yeah.
Then
What is working for, say, Fenty Beauty, Mr. Beast, these guys, but is not working for, say, for example, Bollywood? Because none of the brands propagated by Bollywood seem to be working.
okay, here's what I feel. I can't say at large celebrities around the world. I can talk about 2 problems which I see with Bollywood celebrity-led problem in India. First, authenticity. Okay, so I was just telling you about a stat that Gen Zs believe in advertising. They're okay with it. They trust 7 out of 10 Gen Zs believe in influencer marketing as well.
Yeah.
They're fine. But if as an influencer, I'm telling them and trying to organically push it by not disclosing that this is an advertised product, they don't believe it. They, in fact, there's a cancel culture going on. They're like, "Arey, ye to aise jhoot hai, kuch bhi bechta rehta hai." Right? So you have to be very honest about it. So that's the first thing. So I think with Bollywood celebrities and stuff, the authenticity is not getting built. That's the first. Second,
So is there not
There is a
lot
counter
of-
example, by the way, in my view.
I'll just add
Yeah,
to this
sorry.
and like why I believe this thing.
Yeah.
The second and the most important thing, in India, specifically few Bollywood brands that have started, one day they come up and be like, "Hey, this is my brand, use it." There's no backstory. An actor is changing every year as per their roles and the storytelling that they're doing.
Right.
There's no certain level of values which are getting built over the years. With an influencer, for 5 years, they're building on one value.
But does that mean cricketer brands work?
So cricketer brands work because they only have one value.
But which cricketer brand is really working in India? Leave Virat Kohli and Puma.
No,
What
but I
else?
think, by the way, that's not his brand. It's an endorsement.
Yeah,
but I think,
that's
by the
a-
way, for me, the most interesting one, I mean, it's still playing out, but HRX
HRX.
Yeah.
is, by the way, something that we...
But that's an outlier.
No,
there
but
have
I
been
think
so
that's
many
also
other.
very
true
sorry,
to-
sorry.
By the way, that's
It's-
true to community then.
No, it's very true. It's completely true what you said, right? Which is it's consistent with Ritik's personality as well. I think he genuinely believes in fitness.
But can I
and
ask
so
you a
on.
question?
Yeah.
Tiger Shroff started
Prowl,
Prowl.
which didn't
Why
go.
didn't it work?
Yeah.
But Tiger is more India too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why.
I think that's one.
Ritik is India one still.
Sorry, that's one. I think the other thing also is I think Ritik, by the way, was India one, was consistent, also picked the right platform and partnered
And
with.
the right product also.
And the right
Product.
product.
I was coming to the
Exactly.
product.
Product and platform both were very good. I mean,
And you had the distribution and the reach also.
correct.
Also, I believe
We did
that
that.
the simple theory which I
I think I always see a celebrity making a wrong fit between the cohort of the customers.
Can I derive on that thought and ask you which celebrity should create what kind of a brand? One or two examples.
Ranveer Singh. Protein.
should build an energy drink.
Energy
Energy
drink, I would
energy,
say.
protein, anything.
Energy, I think would be the one.
I think Ranveer Singh can also pull off a sexual wellness brand very well.
Yeah.
Which he's also doing, I think, right?
He's doing that.
What
then
should I sell? If I were a brand, what would I sell? This is interesting. You wouldn't tell me the truth otherwise. So tell it now.
Quite luxury.
Right luxury is a good.
So every star would have some
Value system.
some values which one has to as a brand. Like Katrina has built a beauty brand.
Has that done well though?
That's not done badly. That's done well actually.
Nika eventually bought it?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. Nika
Because the
is-
products are also good by the way.
That's doing well.
Yeah.
What happened to Deepika's
Deepika,
brand?
I don't know how well it is doing.
The 82
I think it is
East, I think.
overpriced a little
It's
bit.
very early days also, I think.
Little
And also,
overpriced.
it's also high ASP.
I don't think it's doing well.
It's overpriced.
Don't know, but the price points are very high.
Deepika and Ananth are friends. So he'll defend.
No, I mean, if the product is good, more power to her to be successful, right? I don't know if it's successful or not.
Can I also add something? I think what we were saying, all three of us in the beginning, you need to have a differentiative product in the beginning. So even if you're a celebrity, you can't come up with a Me Too product.
No, agree. Fully agree.
So I was telling you, it's easier to build an addition category than a replacement category.
Yeah.
And a lot of celebrities have done like a replacement.
Yeah,
categories.
replacement.
Replacement category doesn't
moves
work.
into
Can
India
you
too, that doesn't-
broaden that thought? What is addition?
So it's like, let's say if I love skincare routines. I have already a 3-step skincare routine. I buy, let's say, a face wash, a cream and a sunscreen. Somebody should not sell sunscreen to me. Somebody should sell one added product, not try to replace what I existingly believe in.
What could that be?
So that could be, let's say, scrub on 15 days, once in 15 days. That could be a night cream. That could be a serum before I apply my moisturizer.
And how does somebody build the need for a product outside of the three?
So that's what he said. A long-term keyword, like long-tail keywords you try to find out. You also try to do the Google search where you try to see search volume, what categories are growing up.
Yeah.
And then you try to find out products where there are not enough products where you can build a category.
Yeah.
So if already there's something existing at large which is destroyed, with your community and attention are going to tackle on the same thing, I think there are higher chances of failing.
The
than
other
moving.
thing that I think celebrity-led brands need to be thoughtful about is how do you get the product right? See, I'll tell you, all of the detailed assortment planning, price planning for HRX was all done by the Myntra private brand team, right? At some level. I mean, it's a joint, it's a collaboration and so on. But I think you should not confuse your values and what you want to stand for with product expertise. I mean, they're two very different things.
Yeah.
Was that at your time, HRX?
Yes.
Did you work on it like with him?
Yeah. I mean,
What-
I think it was, I'll tell you, I think the first is athleisure as a space was growing.
Category, yeah.
Was a category that I
yes.
think was a good bet on. Second, it was very consistent with them. Third, in India, by the way, you have Puma, Reebok, Nike, Adidas, and then nothing, right? So this was at 50% of the price point, and therefore very affordable. Applies to India One. I mean, it wasn't an India 2 product, it was an India 1 product, but it was a differentiated offering in a growth market, and it made athleisure accessible to many.
And they didn't overuse Ritik also.
So
He was not
that's also
shouting from
one
the
thing.
top.
No, you're not shouting on the top.
Raj, I
Exactly,
have a
that's
question
what-
for you.
Okay.
What watch are you wearing?
Watch?
Yeah.
Cartier. I don't know how to
Okay.
pronounce.
What shoe are you wearing?
Jordans.
What t-shirt are you wearing?
T-shirt is Sensis. There's a small brand.
Okay, what cell phone are you using?
iPhone.
What trousers are you wearing?
It's a tailor-made trouser.
Why, if I were to sum up your consumption, what car do you drive?
BMW.
If I were to sum up his consumption,
his consumption is dramatically greater than mine. I think it's the one conclusion I come to.
You're signaling right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's exactly. We know about your wine collection. Now let's not go there.
Virtue signaling. It's
Well
a
done,
problem.
well done.
I thought it hit Bangalore less than other cities, but it seems to be coming here. But why are Indian-made brands such a small component of you?
So this is Indian. This is Indian. These are only two things.
Yeah, but out of the 50 lakhs of spend, you told me you're summing up for 1,000 rupees, including your car. If
So I'll
not
tell you,
more.
Correct.
I did on the fun side, I'll tell you the shoes and the watch is given by my brother. So let's just put it that way. But like coming to the part.
But I'm guessing you're not wearing Bata. Bata is actually Italian.
That's not even India.
Yeah.
But why is that?
So I think, I tell you, the major reason is because we've not been exposed by the brands to build a signal value which are Indian made. Okay. So give you an example.
Yeah.
So something, let's say, so I'm in that phase where right now I'm just making money. I want to show off my preferences and choices. Like I want to put that
what
out.
I love about what he's saying is, unlike so many other people I've spoken to, he's not virtue signaling. It's a beautiful quality. Like he didn't evade the question that he drives a BMW. I think it's such a thing that should be appreciated. Like you did a little bit and he did not. I think it's...
I'm Tam Bram. I think there was some, it may not be virtue signaling.
Yeah, I think it's such a disservice to society where people pretend to be saints. And I'll tell you this, the people who pretend to be most saintly are the most immoral of them all. I'm not talking about you.
I think,
I'm
by the
talking
way,
in society.
I think, by the way, I think you have a little bit of what actually signaling is, which seems to impact a little bit more. I don't think it's as serious, right? I think it's a casual thing. I think people behave very differently. I think exercising too much importance to signaling of various kinds is also a problem, right? I think that's also a reverse problem. Right?
This is signaling. This is mainstream now. Like whatever you're doing in life, if it's you,
By the way,
own
I
it.
think that is
So
absolutely...
I developed a philosophy which has worked very well with me is whatever you do in life, the heart and the mind has to converge.
Yeah.
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 And I have no problems with anything ever.
Yeah.
I, by the way, it's hard to not agree, I think, right, with some of this. But I think my point is you do what you feel comfortable with. I don't think you should judge signaling, reverse signaling, or any of it. I
The
think
question
to each their own.
The question is, are you doing what you're truly
you are learning
feeling
about your
comfortable with?
personality and that will reflect on your behavior and your actions.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's okay, right?
Knowing a personality type.
It doesn't mean, by the way, that I think you should absolutely own what you are.
Yeah.
Right? But I think it is okay to have very different what you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I think that's the point I'm trying
Which
to
is
make.
fine. But the question underneath this all is, are you what you are? Are you signaling what you are? Or are you trying to be what you think you should be? And that in itself is a signal.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult sort of
I have an answer to
complicated
this,
question.
yeah.
But my answer, by the way, is actually quite simple. I actually believe that whatever I feel comfortable with, I do. I don't particularly need to sort of be contrarian in order to sort of prove a point either, right? I mean, just to put this in perspective, right? I mean, just because you don't have consumption in one way doesn't mean you don't consume in another way. I mean, to each our own, right?
Yeah. You consume in wine and not consume.
Yeah, each of us does it in our own way, right? And I think
had a
you do
thought
what you
on
enjoy.
I always believe that I am what I am. Inside, outside, I have always been the same. But the other side of the spectrum, the people who are judging you, don't look at you that way.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people misread me.
Yeah.
I get
Because
that.
people believe you are pretentious, you have something else. And I have faced these issues quite a lot.
This is something I'm only realizing for myself now. I spent the vast majority of my life pretending to be something I thought I should be by virtue of my peer group, society, the people I looked up to, all of that. I'm not there yet, but I think I've started being a lot more authentic in life, and it's so refreshing. If somebody asks me like questions, right, I'm like, yeah, that is me. Now, am I hurting you? If I'm not hurting you, it's my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as I'm being true to me.
No, agree.
Secondly, maybe when I was much younger, I used to be judgmental. If he's like this, he
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be like this. Some stereotype. But I think now I'm totally out of judgment. I don't judge anybody by whatever he's wearing or whatever he's
He's itching
driving.
to say something. I can see the lips moving, but the sound not coming out.
No. I agree a bit with Kishore. I still find myself judging too much.
Yeah.
And I think you have to consciously avoid it. I think you
No, I
sort
was
of...
a lot judgmental. Crazy.
Okay. Got it.
And I feel like that's the thing to inculcate and encourage people to do is stop judging.
Yeah. Agree.
Everybody. Like,
Agree.
everybody is constantly judging and taking joy in pulling other people down or like, you have opinion, great, but
Yeah. But I think, and the other thing I like what you mentioned, which is you do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. Don't care. Right? I mean, if you're causing harm, then it's different. But otherwise, I think it shouldn't matter.
Interesting thought. Coming back to Raj. Okay. Sorry for digressing. Continue.
What was I telling?
You were talking about different
the Indian brands, right? So we, as I tell you, okay, what was cool for us till now, okay, as I was growing up, American movies, American sports stars, and American brands, because they were limited, they were not accessible, they were like, you don't see all of your friends wearing Jordan at one point. You don't see everybody driving German cars, everybody wearing a certain level of, let's say, European watches and stuff like that.
But you can't say that. I can say that. No, actually, I can't say that. Kishore can say that. We saw the world kind of come out of socialism - communism,
Yes.
being cool to becoming uncool. Russians can say that. The Chinese can say that because they were oppressed for a certain amount of time and they're overcompensating for a period of time. But I think India largely has been open since the 90s, right?
So
I think so,
I'll tell you,
right?
more
I mean,
than
I don't
90s is
think
like the
the
where
prime-
I've been born and brought up.
So,
yeah.
My
Got it,
city,
got it,
my
got it.
neighborhood,
Got it.
there was, I don't remember in like 300 houses in my colony, there even one guy had like a BMW. I remember when we were growing up, in my school, I was the coolest guy in 12th class. That's 12th. When I bought a fast track. So because I come from that, I'm not talking about larger India. I'm just talking about my upbringing in the way I came up. So
Yeah.
we used to look at other people. And then so now my brother studied in UK. So I didn't study there, he studied there. So he got exposed to all of this. And then he started getting exposed to all of this and he started telling us about all of these things. I started following, I started finding now these little things online. And I was like, wow, even I like it.
By the way, I think there's an opportunity since you're talking about brands in Indian luxury. I think, 5 years ago...
Like I would prefer an Indian luxury
Yeah,
brand,
I think there is...
if I know of.
Yeah, and I think there is...
You mean
patriotism.
ethnic or you mean Western?
No, I think Indian luxury. I don't mean ethnic, right? I think there's an opportunity for handcrafting, for luxury, I think across a range of categories. I think, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have said no. But I think now there's a lot of meaning. People want to actually have some sense of origin in place. I don't think you can build a very large business, maybe, but I think you can certainly build a very interesting brand.
And would you say somebody should sell that through the lens of patriotism? Because that could work.
It could work. I don't know about patriotism.
No, I think luxury, you should not sell with patriotism.
Not at all.
But I think artisans and all that you can do.
Artisan-
I don't know whether
that's
that's
very
patriotism or not, but I think...
Artisan is also very difficult.
But artisan and storytelling is now you're supporting a larger cause, not
Yeah.
patriotism.
Okay, fine.
Patriotism
fine,
is like
fine.
a very, very different emotion.
No, but you're saying made in India, right? Is that something
No,
that I think can
I think the
work,
first
right?
brand which is being built in luxury is Sabya.
Yeah.
And if you look at the new store,
Ultra luxury.
Because he owned a culture, no?
I think it's very interesting.
I think so.
Because he owned a culture.
No, and I think he's taken it global. I mean, the New York store, I mean, it's like quite interesting. So I think there is an opportunity here for sure.
But that's ethnic. I'm talking about
But he's doing a lot of
Other things
products
yeah.
also.
Yeah.
If you look at his
I
bags,
also think so, yeah.
jewelry, I think.
See, I think there's a, I mean...
but there is a story there.
So all of these brands, if you look at luxury brands, they're built around culture. If you pick on that culture and then sell a story, it sells.
okay, influencer brands. What else to keep in mind? Say I'm starting a brand in cosmetics. I want to partner with, say, actor X, Y, whatever. What should I look out for in the actor which should resonate with the product I'm building, and how do I go about it? What do I watch out for? What will work for me?
First, you have to, so write down. So you have completely escaped the Y category, Y product. You've chosen that.
No, tell me that was.
So first
So you
is
said
like,
why it has to be additional, it can't be replacement, it can't be at a price lower than what is available in the market right now. It has to be at a slightly higher price because it has to feel like an upgrade.
Yes.
What else?
So apart from that, now how you go about choosing a celebrity or an influencer? I think first you should choose people who are at the tipping point, not really big, not small. Because if you build with number one,
Yeah.
there's no way going up. Like it's just, there's someone number 2, number 3, number 5 waiting to replace that.
Right.
Right. So for example, if you want to build with Virat Kohli, I don't think this is the right time. It was like,
He's already
at a peak. I think you should build it with someone. This is my theory. It can
Like
be true.
Shubman Gill kind of guy.
Shubman Gill kind of guy. You should build it with that.
Yep.
Because they are on a tipping point. So you're betting because as they grow, your brand will also grow.
Is there a number you can attach to social media influence? Let's say, for example, Virat Kohli has 100 million followers on Instagram.
More than number, I would say. So, okay, don't go with anyone who's under million. Let's just put that.
Okay.
Right.
If you want to build it. But more than that, what really matters is, do they have a potential to go to, let's say, 50 million or 20 million or 15 million? Doesn't matter you catch them at 1 million or 5 million or 8 million. Do they have potential to go 10x from here? Is the question that you should be asking.
And how do you gauge that?
So there are a couple of signs. One is tipping point based on how fast they have gotten to where they've gotten. Second is there a signs of repeating what they're doing? So for example, let's say pick up a musician or an artist.
Right.
If somebody is like, hey, I sing from my soul and heart and I do this, you know that you have to go deeper and talk to this guy like at a certain level to figure out.
Sure.
Because soul and heart is not going to work for long.
Right.
It definitely work. You need to have that eventually. But does this guy understand science behind spreading the music the way it spreads? Example, right? So do they understand the science and the craft of what they're doing so that they can do it at scale with larger people? That's first thing that you figure out. Second is, are there establishments pumping money on them? So for example, if there's a musician, think, are there global music brands or labels putting massive money on them or no? Or if there is like a mainstream YouTuber, are there larger consumer brands who have made them brand ambassadors or putting money on them? Because what happens, these guys, like these larger establishments will pump money and make your small influencer a larger influencer and put in upfront. So you don't end up putting that much money on them. So that's the second and the most. Third is the emotion that they stand for. Every creator, every celebrity has some kind of emotion in their PR story. If it's Shah Rukh Khan, it's like success story and love.
Mm-hmm.
If it's about, let's say talk about 10 gamers. There are 10 gamers playing 10 games and playing same games at the same time, but they all have different communities because one would stand for rags to riches story, one would stand for humor story, one would stand for adventure and being just like a very wild creator. So you need to catch on a specific emotion and then map that emotion with the brand that you're creating. So these are the first 3 signs that you pick on before you choose a celebrity. And then the fourth and the most important thing, which is that, do these creators want to build brand with you and they think that brand is going to be as significant in their life as their music career or their influencer career is or not? Because if they see you as somebody that, hey, I'm going to treat it as a brand endorsement, I'll just come today and do it.
Can you summarize this for us? I'm a new guy creating a new brand. I have 50 lakh rupees to start a brand, let's say cosmetics. 3 main points I would look to find the right partner who's a popular person, influencer.
First, if they're asking you for money, don't work with them.
Okay.
Only share equity and
Only
split
equity,
with.
right?
Only equity.
Okay.
Don't do anything. Because if they're asking for money, they're technically downsizing their risk.
Okay.
You don't want to work with that partner.
Pick them before they become really popular.
Yes. Okay. Pick them before they're really popular. Third is choose on the emotion. Like, what are the people talking about? What is their emotion? What do they stand for? What are the certain level of pattern they've built? Okay. That's if you look at Shah Rukh Khan, he'll only play movies where he's emotionally available for women. That's like a pattern that he's picked up.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody has this pattern.
Yeah.
That's third. Then the most important thing that becomes really important when you're working with an influencer is, are there more people creating content on them? Like, are there enough fan pages and community creating content on them?
Right.
If they are only creating content and that's only getting out in the world, it's technically not that great of an influencer to work with. Because you need people who announce something
about them.
Who write about them. So you need someone who just talks about something, and then there are fan pages and communities and other people to create content on them. They say, you are a great creator, right? People create content on you. So that's a picking up on that. So you need to pick up on that. And I'll add the last layer of influencer-led brands. Can your influencer organically create content which doesn't look like sales around the product that you're building with them? Because if your creator has to come up and be like, hey, buy my water bottle.
Yeah.
And in their entire life, they've never talked about water or bottle.
Yeah.
You got to be consistent, right?
It's just gonna be bad.
Yeah, I just as an aside on topic on this, I actually once had the chance to meet Kris Jenner and the Kardashians just during my Myntra
You
days.
have a parallel life with Deepika and Kardashians and all that, right?
No,
Like,
it's all in business, man. I mean, I don't have any time for socializing. So anyway, I met them.
Pretentious.
Signaling, not pretentious. I'm going to live with my signaling and own my signaling. Right? It's very interesting. I think your fourth point, or maybe the third point, was the most biggest thing. I don't think they did any of this consistent, all of that. But they knew the engagement level of their followers, and they knew the number of followers, and they knew they wanted to build a business that would last beyond them. I don't know whether there's a certain mindset of an influencer, which I think is perhaps the most important for success. I think, for example, a Hrithik, right, wanted to build a legacy. I think wanted to build something. I don't know if that, maybe the equity part is the part that sort of makes that come alive. But for me, I think getting that right more than anything else makes this successful, right? I think that's why they've built such large brands.
Because you need to understand your community, right? Because
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian understood her shapewear was the most talked
That's right.
about. That's why
right.
she started.
That's right. Skims
Kylie
does-
understood her lips were the biggest thing that was catching
look
on.
at the
and she built on
cosmetics, yeah, each of them. And the
and
skins.
how do you recognize these trends in the market? Like, it's constantly changing, right? Like, all these women were very voluptuous at one point. Now they're skinny. Like, the needs and the trends that sell in a market are constantly changing. So if I'm starting a brand today, how do I recognize that trend? Where do I look at it? Is it a top-down funnel? Should I look at the Kardashians, see what they're doing and build a brand around that? Or would that be ahead of its time?
I think we have to keep our eyes and ears open, and you have to follow anything which is getting popular.
I think so.
Yeah.
And you will always find something or the other.
Would it be fair to say what the Kardashians are doing now will be popular in India in X
I
amount
don't
of
look
time?
at any
I
Western.
don't
think
know.
so.
I don't know. I don't think so, right?
Not at all.
Eventually we didn't bring them to India because I don't think it actually appealed, right? So I think it has to be local to your market for sure.
The belief system is different everywhere.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
don't think like what works there
Will work
technically
here.
works here.
Right.
Because that's
Any
very
other
different.
insights? Influencer, please.
What else?
Hey, how much equity do you give them?
Depends. Like, so we started 50 to somewhere like around 10 to 20%.
Depending on the amount of time they...
No. Depending on the category and the investment which will be required for us to build it versus what they bring on table.
And they only put time, no capital, obviously.
No, they don't put capital.
So it's
But
only
they
time.
share the sharing is on the profit level, not on any licensing, any royalty, nothing else.
So there's no percentage of revenue that they get,
Nothing.
blah, 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 etc.
So he's
If the
done,
brand makes money, it makes money, or else you don't.
Otherwise you don't get, okay.
he's done a perfume, a cooker, perfume mixer, and the third one is
Now we're doing beauty.
beauty. And each of those brands are selling 2 crores?
No, not right now. Third brand is getting launched in October. But first and two together, they're doing around 2.5.
No,
We
got
just
it.
launched like 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
So we're very
No,
new.
it's great. But I'm saying, but the interesting thing is, it's really when the brand makes money, you get some portion of the profit, not otherwise, and you give them only equity.
And this is very tricky. Like, we have a fund around consumption and, it's called Collective Gruhas. And we were looking at stats of popular people who launched brands.
Yeah.
We were looking at, let me not name her, but one very popular actress with over 50 million followers who launched a certain brand recently. It only sold like a few hundred. So I don't think it's the popularity that is key.
Oh, yeah.
It is the combination of all these factors.
Too many factors.
Plus, there's a big thing
think
versus
you have to get
being known and then being influenced.
No,
like, you have an influencing power versus being known.
No, and that's one. The second is what I was earlier saying, right? I think you have to separate out product, price, value proposition from influence. I think you cannot sell, even to India one, right? You cannot sell something what they don't want. So I think your assortment and this has to be left to, I wouldn't say professional, but at least some experts, right?
So we had a
Me
very
Too you can't
interesting,
sell.
we had a very interesting
Very
state
tough.
in our earlier economy on, we used Sachin as a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
We created a brand along, but Sachin brand represented his childhood and every mother or parents wanted somebody to be like Sachin. That was the brand essence on which we worked. It didn't work as much. We worked with Jay Surya, Hensi Krone, Mark Wahlberg, Steve Waugh. It worked phenomenally well. All the foreign stars.
Oh.
Then we had Dhoni. I think that was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And very early days when he had long hairs.
Which one? Which
FBB, Desh Badla, Besh Badlo. We created a whole campaign.
Which brand was this?
FBB.
Okay, Fashion Big Bazaar.
Yeah,
Fashion Big Bazaar.
So we changed our name that time with Dhoni.
Yeah.
And we continued with Varun Dhawan,
Right.
Katrina. So it's been a journey. But misses was not many misses. We used to take 2 stars, one from the east and one from the north. So we used Bipasha.
Right.
So because in India today to launch a brand, a D2C brand, you need 2 stars. One from the south and one from the north.
Kishore's daughter is building some incredible brands. Would you like to talk a little bit about it? Because people watch, look it up.
I think they are in the journey of
But
building.
would you like to say like
They are a company which they are building is a venture builder.
Okay.
So they are building ventures, 0 to 1. Everything is 0 to 1. And they build around 9 ventures.
which is your 2 favorites amongst the 9? Which are your 2?
I think there is a new one which is coming up, which is going to be a new lifestyle space for the new age brands, influencers, creators. It's a new departmental store.
What is it called?
It's going to be called Broadway.
Oh.
So it's a department.
It's a live theater, it's a F&B, it's a supermarket, it's a beauty store.
How interesting.
And it's-
Experience.
You can,
So it's
experience,
like an
totally.
experience
And
place.
you can, we are starting live commerce there.
Yeah.
And there's a maker's lab. You can show how your product is being made. There is a content studio. Everything is ticketed, 10 events a day, big events.
Wow. There's definitely an opportunity for you two to collaborate somewhere.
So that's the first store which we are, I think that's looking.
Second
quite
favorite?
exciting. I think second favorite is the Smartsters as a brand.
Smartster is a brand.
Yeah. Because we went into through furniture and now getting into other categories.
And how do you go about acquiring the client there?
I think the same. What physical, digital, all
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
I don't believe in that theory of 0 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 to 100. I don't believe in that theory. I believe brand has to be right, the positioning has to be right, and you have to keep on acquiring customers, keep on learning on the way. If your brand is wrong, nothing is going to go right.
The one thing like I have a point of contention on, like by the time this comes out, this deal will probably be done, but we're doing Bluestone. So like me,
Yes.
Ranjan and Sanjeev Bikhchandani are doing it together. What worked incredibly well for them is when they were online only, they plateaued at a certain point.
And they had to get to offline too.
The minute they went to offline,
Yes.
they scaled by a crazy factor.
Right.
Worked for Bluestone did not say, for example, work for Nykaa. Nykaa stores did not work.
So can I tell you the difference in my mind?
Yeah.
One is a brand, the other is a platform. I think they're two very different things in my view. By the way, I fundamentally believe, I think that more than 100 crores without offline, it's very hard to sort of build over time. I think we've talked about this earlier in the session. Carrot Lane, Bluestone, I think even more important because the ASPs, the price points are very high. Therefore, you need even more. I think if you're a platform and not a single brand, then by the way, platforms work on traffic and choice. Brands, by the way, you're establishing through this offline, you're establishing trust, you're establishing touch and feel, etc.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Do platforms work today?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. I mean, Myntra, Nykaa, Amazon, all are platforms, right? Of course they work. They aggregate. What do platforms do? They've spent money to aggregate traffic and their brand stands for something. Myntra, is great brands at great prices, right? Nykaa, I think, is around beauty and now, of course, extending into other categories like fashion, etc. But I think they've established a loyal set of customers who keep coming back regularly for choice.
Okay, if
and
I were
delivery.
to if I were to switch it up, we spoke about 0 to 1 if you're creating a brand. If you're an investor looking at platforms, how would you value them multiple wise? Would you look at GMV? Would you look at sales?
Net sales.
Net sales? And what multiple would you attribute?
Again, depends on the
See,
category and the
look,
profitability. Yeah.
A lot of them are going so broad that they all are becoming the same.
No, actually,
No, I think there's a vertical versus a horizontal, right? I mean, verticals are people who focus on one sector versus not, right? See, look, I mean, I think eventually the question is, can you make a ton of money? I mean, I think, you can't get away from free cash flows, right, at some level. So the question that you have to believe at some level for a platform is, at what percentage market share can you start to make real money? Right? And that varies, right? In Amazon in the US, it took 20 years or whatever. I forget the exact number of years before it started generating money. So I think that's how you'll start to have to value. I think it's a little bit more not your current cash flows. It has to be some projection of future
Even
cash flows.
if you were to
right?
leave cash flows, because very few of them have positive
Yeah.
cash flows. If you were to look at a net sales multiple, would you say, like we discussed earlier, you said for
4 to 6x is what roughly the range, right?
for beauty and fashion,
But
4
not for
to
platforms,
6x.
No, not for platforms. I'm saying this was we discussed for brands.
Yeah, obviously.
Do you think ONDC kind of things are a threat to platforms?
No. I think ONDC can be maybe in the long... I think they're not a threat to platforms. I think they can unlock smaller players in terms of selling, right? Smaller brands in terms of selling because it allows you to have direct access. What has a platform done? Platform has spent all its money on traffic and brand, right? ONDC doesn't solve the problem. ONDC disaggregates the different parts of e-commerce, right? I think it's very useful. I do think ONDC can add value to brands. I'm not sure they're a replacement to platforms.
What I think will happen, if you were to ask me, like
Yeah,
I'm no
yeah,
expert
yeah,
in
me-
this field.
No, but
but
it'd be interesting to hear your
I think the margins, like when I value a platform play, ONDC I think will drive down the margins of platforms considerably.
Got it.
Because I might not take the arbitrage if the price difference is 5%, but if the price difference is paying 30% on Flipkart versus 5% on ONDC, I think a lot of people, by virtue of word of mouth, will go for it. And another very like cardinal question I missed is different platforms have different business models. Like Amazon has a warehouse where they'll stock and then supply and all of that. Let's say, for example, Nykaa has a different one, Flipkart has a different one. What model is working today and what will work tomorrow?
So there are sort of fundamentally two models, just to simplify this. Maybe I'll take this as an e-commerce platform question. One is what's called a pure play marketplace, right? A pure play marketplace purely connects buyers and sellers. The inventory sits with the brand and the brand ships it out to the customer. That's one model, yeah? The other model is what is called fulfilled by the platform. You can have fulfilled by Amazon, fulfilled by Flipkart, etc. There the inventory physically sits in a Flipkart warehouse or a Myntra warehouse or an Amazon warehouse, right? These are broadly the two different models. What works well for what depends on volume and value. If you're selling gardening equipment or if you're selling anything which is bulky, then going through an Amazon or a Flipkart model where it's in their warehouse is always cheaper because they can get it to all parts of India, they can get it to you faster, etc. If you're selling a fashion product, maybe doing a pure play marketplace from your own is fine because you can still get it to them. It doesn't cost you that much more. So it's purely economics driven, I think, Nikhil, in my mind. So it's volume value ratio.
Right. If you had 1 crore rupees and you had to build a brand today, I'm going to go through each one of you. What would you do? Where do you see the opportunity? How would you do it? Like, give me a 30-second answer.
Can we start from them? I want to know their
Sure.
test.
Kishore, would you like to?
Like my background has been clothing and all other categories. I would look at opportunity in two places. One is household wares to create a brand out there.
Household wares being?
Home decor.
Not home decor. I would say anything which goes into home, the cutlery, the crockery, any household
Why?
goods. I think that's a interesting product category which people they buy quite often in a way that there are new designs which can be created. You can enter this market easily through new design sensibilities or through something else. Another thing which I would do will be in fashion.
And what
fashion,
would you do?
Try to do at least 10-12 stock tons in whatever you design towards.
But if
very
you had
small
to
line.
figure your differentiation, what would it be?
Like maybe a single color,
A brand which only does one color.
one color.
That's very interesting. What color would that be?
He's already done.
Right, it's
Kingdom of White.
Yeah.
So
But white might be done. There might be so many other
Yeah,
colors.
there are many options. You can do a particular fabric, you can do a particular thing, but I'm again looking at longevity, whatever you do.
Right. Like black, I think is an incredible.
yeah, could be.
Right. Okay. Your turn.
I would do pets.
What around pets?
I would do accessories for pets as opposed to food, I think.
Accessories, you mean like
Leashes, pet cleaning, pet grooming. I think it's a market with high gross margins. You can create differentiated products. I think it's a 10-year sort of growth story. The other area I would think about is actually athleisure. I still think there is lots and lots and lots of space.
I think My Bliss Club is trying to do
Bliss Club is doing
Lululemon.
it with its right. Yeah. So Minu. Yeah. So I think there is one, but I think there are many that can actually happen, and I think it's a trend that I think, and I would like to. It's an interesting one to incubate.
Can I tell you, I'm a Lululemon fanatic.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking socks, t-shirts,
Yes.
pants,
Yeah.
underwear, bags, caps, everything.
Yeah.
okay? It's like Nike plus 25% if you
Sure.
buy it in the US or
Yeah.
in Canada or whatever. Whatever I have tried, like which wants to be like Lululemon,
Nothing has come close
not forget
from a
clothes.
fit standpoint, or
Just from a comfort.
comfort and fit.
Like Lululemon has no branding, right? They never have a logo, anything. You even pull out their tag. So there's no tag even. The entire thing is, I feel like how you can move in that fabric, how you can sweat in that fabric, how light and comfortable that fabric feels. Like I wish I had stock. Unfortunately, I have zero stock of Lululemon, but it's like a $40 billion company now. How can anyone ever compete with them if they have that much resources and money to make better fabric, better fit, better everything?
But the longevity of any fashion business is not so large because you're as good as your last season in a fashion business.
But is that fashion or is it fashion plus tech?
I think fashion plus tech, there are two players who have played it. Maybe Lululemon, somebody in Athleisure, and Uniqlo. I think they have, and both have been very
Uniqlo is
successful.
Yeah.
And both have been quite successful. But tech earlier never used to work in fashion.
But I think another thing to tell our people is...
Sorry, I have just one thing just on that. I by the way, think you don't need to compete with the Lululemon. I think there is, again, in India, there are multiple segments. I think the Lululemon segment is probably living in the building and like a few other buildings and so on, right? I mean, they're aware, global brand. I don't think it's particularly expensive, but I think it is something that is still premium.
It's like Nike. I think a t-shirt will be 4,000-5,000 rupees. Nike plus 30%.
Nike plus 30 is it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I mean, it's not available widely here either. Anyway, so, but I think there is an affordable athleisure that I think even the Bliss Club, what is Bliss Club known for? I think it's fit, right? And therefore fit in a following. I think it's possible to crack fit. I actually think Indian body types are different, by the way. So I think if you build an Indian athleisure brand, you can build it for India. You can build the fits right. I think the fabric technology, I mean, Kishore knows this better, but I think it's widely available. I mean, you have to go global, but I think it's widely available.
I
Because you
feel
have
it's
to
like
crack
a
something.
science, like just making a Lululemon, say, shirt or t-shirt. The way it feels, it could be placebo talking. Okay?
Right.
Like I might be like talking out of my ass here, but it genuinely feels
Nikhil is
incredible.
sold out there.
Yeah. Correct.
Fanatic.
And I think he is following more because it's a $40 billion company more than anything.
I find it very interesting. Like,
Yeah, but the
I
stock
feel like
price or the fit or both?
both.
Yeah.
I feel like Patagonia,
Yeah.
Lululemon. These are brands which are built around stories. And I think these
No, a
will do
certain
well.
lifestyle.
No,
Actually,
there-
Lululemon
it's-
created a lifestyle.
No, and even Patagonia, right? I mean, what a great story.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, he donated all of his shareholding to charity.
I feel like
right?
that's becoming such a big part of building a brand. And I think anyone
That's
building
what we
from
always said, na? Greed, fear and altruism. Altruism builds a brand, yeah.
Yeah.
0 to 1, I think has to like so bear in mind with what he just said, because that story has to start from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
It can't change along the way.
Interesting.
We have an interesting brand now, which is like IDFC Bank.
Yeah.
Where the story is about altruism, yeah.
Correct.
Wipro.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wipro.
Wipro.
Even Tata's in a way.
Yeah.
Raj?
I would build men's beauty brand. And I
New
think
category.
it's new category. It's growing. I think men are equally insecure about how they want to look, or maybe just want to improve the way they want to have their under eye, or like just hide their dark spots, blemish, everything. And I think there are not enough brands to do it. That's why.
Is that
And-
more can I ask this question? Because I don't know that many men who wear makeup.
Yeah.
Like I probably don't even know one. But there is such a stigma around a man wearing makeup. Would you package it in a manner where it does not sound like makeup?
Yeah. So here's a way to do it, right? If I come and give you that, hey, here's buy, let's say, XYZ concealer and stuff like that, and this you put it under your eye, you do it, probably large majority of men would buy today. But if I come up with a different form and just be like, this is gonna sort your under eye, and don't call it like concealer or something.
What would you call it?
I don't know. Like it's not in the back of my head. Like I can't think of it, but I'll think of it like
But it has
packaged
to
in
be
a
a
different
problem
way.
solution. As
Problem
opposed
solution.
to
It's like under as a problem. Here's it is.
Functionality.
Functionality.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what, because I think there's not enough brand.
Would you get a celebrity who's the epitome of masculinity to sell something like this?
So because I do most of the creator and celebrity led,
Yeah.
I would, in this, because this is such a fresh category, I would rather pick up on people who are normal just like me than celebrities and build on their stories.
For example?
For example, I'll give this to 100 people for free, ask their reviews, and make their reviews as a story like this is the new thing for men as well.
And which influencer would you pick?
I would do very micro influencers. I would do 100 small influencers, then like become like a big influencer.
Is that a new trend in branding? Like, would you go to
I think
thousands
so.
of micro versus macro?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
absolutely.
Because this is,
Absolutely.
in this category, I'm not selling aspiration. In this category, I'm solving a problem. So if there was an aspiration or a community play, probably I would have picked up on a larger influencer. But because I'm only picking up on a problem and solution, because the category doesn't exist, you have to invest a lot in category building and category creation.
Yeah.
Then I'll do it.
I have
I'll
an
give you one.
investment in a company called Confluence, which is probably the leading tech of aggregating micro influencers.
This is with Kwan. No.
No. Confluence is with Sriram in Hyderabad.
Oh, Sriram. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
correct.
I'll tell you, this ecosystem has changed so much. I think the influencer ecosystem, right, saw such a spike with gambling money, crypto money, all of that. Suddenly there seems to be like a vacuum which has come about there. There is a reworking of the ladder of how much which influencer gets paid, which is going to be so drastically different from last year. It's chaos in that industry.
Interesting.
Confluence by far is the best, in my opinion. But
Okay.
I think that industry needs a fresh funnel like yesterday of people spending marketing money behind it, micro influencers.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, there was a survey recently that you get convinced by your friends the most, friends and family. Second, you get convinced by people who you follow but are not that known.
Yeah.
And third, you get convinced by influencers. The celebrity in this comes like 6th or 7th number.
And
It's
somehow
very
people have
interesting.
this stupid notion that the efficacy of Indian nutraceuticals will be lesser than foreign ones.
Right.
Somebody has to break that.
Correct,
So if
correct.
somebody creates a brand there, it has to be around proven efficacy.
Proven efficacy.
Yeah.
I think efficacy has to be the key. And I think there's
Yes.
a very interesting opportunity there as well, I think.
For sure.
Anyway.
I just remembered something. If I had to create a brand today, I think it would be around seniors, older
Yeah.
Oh,
people.
yeah, we spoke about it. Yeah.
Seniors and
I think interesting.
There is somebody working on it already.
yeah.
Many
And I feel
people.
like the influencers I would hire would also be old people who are still relevant.
Yeah.
That is one of the new consumer groups we have identified in the new top 30.
Well, very interesting. Anyway, I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd say it's an opportunity that not many people are
They are not
fighting
wanting
over.
to give all their wealth to their
And not competitive, right?
No, they are not wanting to give all their wealth to their children.
Yeah.
They want to enjoy life.
Right. Right. So they have ability to pay. It's not particularly competitive. Interesting.
One point of failure when you were starting a brand 0 to 1 that happened that you think other people can learn from, what not to do. One common reason why brands starting off fail.
I think we did, I think in my journey we counted, we did close to 120 brands or labels or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And I would say we must have got 20 wrong. And whenever we analyzed what went wrong was the name, the type style, the logo, what you call it, the what you call the brand codes, the category codes being wrong, and product and the pricing. So these were all the reasons for.
If you had to pick the top reason,
I think it's sometimes just the name
wow. So name is incredibly valuable.
and the logo.
Name and logo.
Yeah.
Wow. Ananth?
Thinking. I think for me, I think when we have compromised quality for speed of launch, it's been bad, right? So, for example, you have a deadline to launch, right? You need to sort of.
But I believe that's all hygiene. Product has to be right only.
No, but I'm saying, by the way, it's my failure we're talking about, not yours.
Fair enough.
So I think, my sense is, for me, I think it is a little bit more of product quality.
I think we are soon reaching 4 o'clock. So
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's getting well beyond my bedtime.
Yeah.
So I think it's basically for me when we've compromised on quality. quality, but whatever, right? All the small details.
Some shortcuts, yeah.
Shortcuts, right? You've not got the fit completely right. You have not got the packaging completely right. And you sort of push for speed.
Right.
I think that's actually been, and the consequences last for a very long time, right? You don't realize it, but I think therefore taking the time to do it is been important.
One mistake.
I think I'll go with more of when you start as a solo founder and you have just 2-3 people eventually. I think very, very basic thing I'm going to tell, like, I think we should prepare a checklist and go through that checklist every month of hygienic details. Giving you example, I made a major mistake when first time I started selling on Amazon. Just the tax. I chose luxury good instead of essential.
Yeah. We spoke about this.
Yeah,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Just I was selling essential goods. I was selling disinfectant sprays.
Yep.
And I chose luxury goods. And that costed me 22%.
Yeah.
Right?
What is
and
that,
there
GST?
Was GST. And that was 22%.
I mean,
right?
it changes
And you
everything.
can't change it?
No. I can change it after once I figured out. But the cycle is so long, I figured out after 3 months, I ended up losing a lot of money and made nothing. In fact, so my profit was on that was 12 to 13%. I lost 10%. इससे तो मैं free में बांट देता. So that was a problem. So I think you should make a checklist, like a hygiene of 20-30 things and go through that every month so that even if you're making some mistake, you can correct it next month. Specifically when you're starting very individual, solo, lean team.
Yeah.
Because there are no checklists. We don't know structure, right? It's like we just want to do everything.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so the last part, we normally do a charity with every episode. We thought we'll do it differently as an experiment this time. So in all that we spoke about, we will pick an entrepreneur in either fashion or cosmetics or any of the industries we discussed who would otherwise not have got funding. And we will fund by virtue of this podcast.
Okay.
Under the age of 22.
Under the age of 22?
Yeah, some young entrepreneur for this particular episode. So, I wanted to open it up to you guys and we'll figure out the filtering mechanism. We'll put out an application. We will review and finalize together which company that should be.
Sure.
But I'm saying specifically 22 because these guys find it much harder to raise funding.
Okay.
Typically in college, side project, they're not at zero, but they're in the journey of 0 to 1 essentially.
Sure.
Finding young people when he started, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
17.
him. Like him. You know, in the last
Hope we find somebody like that. Yeah.
In the last episode, we had the Zepto guys. And, the one thing they said that was so incredibly cool is they got a grant of 40 lakhs from this fund when they were 18. And that's what helped them build Zepto.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we'll figure out an investment between all of us. We'll finalize.
Sure.
Is there an amount of money you'd like to commit towards that
You can
investment?
decide on everybody's behalf, no?
I can also, whatever.
Yeah, just pick a number so we can just close it.
I don't know, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
Same, whatever.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
Same, I'll do the 10.
Should we do 10, 10, 10, 10? 40 will be enough? Yeah.
If Zepto started with 40 lakhs, it's not high.
Yeah. If Zepto started with 40, okay, fine. All right.
But I think it's a great idea. I never thought about it. I think under 22 would be quite an interesting.
Finding would be so hard.
Finding is also going to be hard, right?
So we'll put out an application.
Okay.
We'll have some preset filters.
Okay.
We'll bring it down to say 10, 15 companies which are finalized.
Okay.
Then we'll do a Zoom call between the 4 of us and pick one of them.
Very interesting.
Terrific.
Nice.
And I think it's a great idea to help those people who would not have gotten funding otherwise.
In fact, it's interesting, an alternate to a charity.
Yeah. So in fact, maybe much better also. In some
Should
way.
we do a
Create
larger
value.
amount? So it'll be game changing?
We can do 2.
Whatever. Or we can do 2 companies.
So should we do 20 lakhs each and 2 companies 40 lakhs?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll increase the probability also.
Done. And we will ask them to incorporate. We can also ask them to incorporate all they learned on this episode.
Yeah.
'Cause there's going to be a long, many hours
session
of insights they can learn from.
Yeah.
But that's it. Thank you all for coming.
Great. Thank you.
And look forward to having you guys again soon.
Thank you. It was great.
Can we cut this session?
I think he's going to promote that section. So are you going to be around for a few days?
No,
Or you're leaving tomorrow?
morning.
How long are you here?
Tomorrow morning.
You guys all commuted, yeah? I came down. I have the shortest commute of the lot.
Best. Design your life in a way that
Yeah,
podcast bhi niche ho raha hai.
Correct. So just out of your 11 episode history, right? Are we more efficient, less efficient?
It's going to be the toughest to cut though.
Yeah, I seem to be the only one who's
Super
worried
I
about
feel like we could
efficiency.
go on like 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. No way.
Yeah.